Bureau.
I just think it's very important that every one of those 10,000 employees in the census understand that we're watching the census.
COVID upended counting for the 2020 census, which Trump officials also cut short. Hanzila Wang, NPR News.
The civil war in Syria continues to escalate. Rebel fighters are trying to capture Syria's third largest city, Homs, from forces loyal to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Rebels have made a lightning advance on Syrian government troops and could soon be aiming for the capital, Damascus. In a televised speech, Hezbollah's leader has expressed support for the Syrian government against what he called terrorist groups trying to sow chaos. He also outlined a system of compensation for people in Lebanon whose homes have been destroyed by Israeli airstrikes. NPR's Lauren Freyer reports from Beirut.
In a video address from an undisclosed location, Hezbollah chief Naim Qassem said his group would pay the rent to rehouse families who've lost their homes while they rebuild. And he specified numbers, $14,000 if you live in the capital Beirut and $12,000 outside. He said the money is a gift from Hezbollah's patron, Iran. Qassem also accused Israel of more than 60 violations of a ceasefire in Lebanon, but said his group would still adhere to it. And he accused Israel and the U.S. of sponsoring insurgents in Syria for what he called an expansionist project in the Middle East. Hezbollah and Iran are allies of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, whose forces have lost territory to opposition fighters in recent days. Lauren Freyer, NPR News, Beirut.
You're listening to NPR News.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Boston City Councilor Tanya Fernandez-Anderson is expected in court later today after her arrest this morning on federal corruption charges. Investigators claim the council hired a relative to her staff, then gave that relative a bonus under the condition that a portion of the money be returned to her as a kickback. Authorities, including Boston FBI Special Agent in Charge Steve Kelleher, held a news conference on the case this morning outside the Moakley Courthouse. Kelleher noted that the similarities between the Fernandez-Anderson allegations and similar fraud charges brought more than 15 years ago against the city councilor who once held her seat, Chuck Turner.
It's like deja vu all over again. Another Boston City Councilor is accused of embracing a culture of cashing in at the expense of the public good.
Fernandez-Anderson is due in court at 2:15 this afternoon. As state law currently stands, the Barnstable County Jail does not have the authority to detain people for their immigration status. That's according to County Sheriff Donna Buckley, who spoke at the County Assembly of Delegates meeting this week.
Nor do I have any intention, under the current state of the law, to detain anyone on an ICE detainer. However, none of us knows what the state of the law will be when the next president takes office.
Buckley says that while some sheriffs elsewhere in the United States are exhibiting, quote, extreme enthusiasm about the ability to round up people, this is not the sentiment among Massachusetts sheriffs. 29 degrees, this is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Cy Sims Foundation, partnering with organizations and people since 1985, working for a better and more just future for all. More information is available at cysimsfoundation.org.
Eastern Browdy, I am Marjorie Yeakin. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live. Thank you from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. I want to mention the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, will be with us at the library here on Wednesday, taking our questions and yours. Hi, Jim.
Hey, two quick things. One, why do you applaud for yourself?
I don't know. Because it's like voting for yourself.
Okay,
if you're not going to vote for yourself, who will?
Secondly, if you have experienced a stressful week, as we do almost every single week,
oh, it's tough, Jim.
I want to say again, in about 30 minutes, a way to allay a lot of that stress is we have two musicians.
Oh, yeah.
We heard rehearsing this mandolin phenom, Ian Corey, and an incredible pianist with him, Maxime Lubarsky. That's at a little bit after 11:30. And if you need a break from whatever.
That's right.
They are it.
And then right after that, Catherine Gerger-Burnett is going to be here. She's a physician solving all your medical and stress problems.
Right, and talking about the murder of a healthcare executive. In any case, so every couple of months we talk on the show about whether schools should be banning young people from having smartphones at school, as is happening in tons of schools around the country. I don't know how much it's happening here. Kids can't handle the distraction, the argument goes. Think of how much more productive they'd be if they had to put their phones in a bucket or something at the start of the day. Well, time for a taste of our own medicine. Our friend Shirley Leung, business columnist for The Globe, has a piece out in today's paper about whether offices should be requiring employees to curb personal smartphone use during the day. According to one research firm in 2021, this is unbelievable. The average employee spends an estimated 2.5 hours a day accessing personal digital content unrelated to their jobs during work hours, 2.5 hours a day. The number's 877-301-8970. Our question, if you're someone who spends a lot of time on your phone doing personal things, what exactly are you doing other than maybe listening to us? What do you think? Do you think there's an upside to a more distraction-free work environment? Would it not be better, not just for your employer, but for you? Maybe you'd appreciate not getting the barrage of texts from your group chats, your mother bugging you about menial questions about what type of Christmas tree is best, or do you want to just keep your phone? The number's 877-301-8970 to call or text. Maybe this is something you've already embraced, like Marjorie, simply because she never knows where her phone actually is. So by definition,
funny.
You are putting it aside.
My phone is right here, and I should say I need my phone during work to get my missives from you, so I know, my text message from you.
So you're blaming this on me?
No, I think I'm not blaming this on you, but I do think this is a great idea. I'm all for it.
Dumping the personal phone at office, okay.
Shirley's column also says 54% of workplace managers can't stand their colleagues being on the phone all the time. I mean, that's one of the most distracting things, when people talk loudly on their phones.
Or looking at their damn phones when you're talking to them.
Or looking at the phones when you're talking to them. And there's also talk in here about people walking through the office now, and when you are back at the office, and most people are, well, unless you're somebody who has to work every day at the office, like teachers or mail deliverers, something like that, walking through their office, not interacting with their colleagues, but on their phones and looking at things on their phone. I just think cell phones, it'd be nice to get a break and have people in your family and your close friends know you're unreachable on your cell phone when you're at work.
How often during the show do you look at your phone while we're on live to do research on something?
Well, if you need it, it's different. Most people.
Well, I understand that.
I try to do it on the computer because it's faster, but if you need it, it's different.
Okay, so how about this? How about you have to store your personal cell phone when you get to work?
Yeah.
And your boss gives you a work cell phone.
I think that would be great.
We can't do personal stuff. How about that?
That would be great. I mean, how many times do you get a phone call like 5 minutes of 11? This cracks me up.
One of my daughters usually calls me during the show.
No.
By the way, the only problem I have with this, because I'm with you, I don't think banning them would be a bad idea at all. I do try, in the spirit of full disclosure, I do try to get most of my shopping done during the show while we're on the air. And that would be a problem.
Listen to our staff. They're all saying they have people calling them every day at 11 o'clock in the morning and ask, are you busy? And Jamie's mother apparently does it too, every day around 10:45. What are you doing?
Am I allowed to say your mother-in-law was actually aggravated yesterday about something you told us, and we said, I shouldn't have said that? In any case,
too late now.
877-301-8970. The question is quite simple. Should personal cell phone use, and please don't call and say you have an emergency, you got to call your kid, or if there's a mass shooting at your kid's school. It's not going to be a mass shooting at your kid's school. And if they are, they can call the switchboard and then they'll talk to you. What do you think about banning personal cell phone use at the office? By the way, there's one key to this.
What?
You actually have to go to the office to have it banned at the office.
And
but
you're
that's
talking
a topic
about
for
how
another day.
If you do have a meeting at your office where you're supposed to be sitting around a table, so it would be hard to be on your phone because everybody would know. What does everybody do the moment the meeting is over?
Goes to their phone.
Goes right to their phone to see if they've got any text messages,
during the damn meeting?
any emails.
How rude is it when you're in a meeting with other people, one-on-one or a larger meeting, and you look across the damn table and there are people on their cell phone? I mean, it is so disrespectful. It is incredible.
Well, anyway, we're supposedly more apt to accept rudeness in 2024 than we have been previously.
Oh, that's really shocking, isn't it?
877-301-8970 is the number. What do you think? I mean, by the way, why is Massachusetts so far behind
I'm not
in getting
buying
rid
that
of
chart.
cell phones in the schools?
I don't think that's true. I think there are a lot of schools that have banned it. I'm not sure. Can you guys check that
big
out,
chart,
by the way?
Big chart all around the country. All these other states have banned, including Connecticut and Vermont and New Hampshire. But we seem to be lagging behind.
I don't know about that, but we're not talking about that anyway. In any case, 877-301-8970. How about expanding these ban of cell phone conversations to the office? By the way, here's the one excuse is Tom from Manchester texts, I need my phone at work to listen to you guys.
Oh,
I mean,
that's different.
It's not really that different.
That's different.
But that is part of the problem, but thank you for doing it, by the way. Let's go to Catherine in Worcester. You're first on Boston Public Radio. We're live at the Boston Public Library. Hey.
Hi, I love your show. Thanks for taking my call. I have 2 points, I guess.
Yeah.
I go to therapy once a week, and sometimes my therapist can't help herself but glance at her phone during our session.
Fire your therapist.
My God.
That's the
so
worst.
I'm a therapist. I don't want to say anything. I don't know what to do about it.
Is that a true story, or is that a true story?
It's true. It's true. She can't help it. It's on her desk, and she's a human, and no one can ignore their notifications.
Catherine, I don't want to offend you, but let me ask you a question. How interesting is your life?
I guess not very, but I think it's just a human problem, and I think we need to model it for our kids.
You know, can I tell you,
if we want them to get rid of their phones, we have to.
In a serious way, that is totally unprofessional.
I think
don't know what the ethical rules are, but that is
well,
totally
I think, Catherine, you're
unprofessional.
entitled to mention it to her. That it upsets you when you see her looking at her phone. I don't think that's out of bounds.
You know what you should do, Catherine? I have an idea. If you don't want to confront her, next time she starts talking to you, pull out your phone and start texting somebody and see how she feels about it. That is outrageous. Catherine, thanks for your honesty. Thanks for your call.
Okay, here's an anonymous texter. Hot button topic for me. I never use my phone at work aside from an occasional text, but the Sasquatch next to me does all the time. I'm so sick of being distracted by his loud personal calls. Dude, no one wants to hear about your dinner plans. No one wants to hear when and where your dog pooped. No one wants to hear your annoying ringtone. So there's somebody that's with us.
By the way, you know, that's a real problem when someone's on the phone and is loud. But would you not agree that it's a problem even if the person next to you is on their phone and not saying anything, just searching their phone or scrolling through something?
That's not as bad as actually talking loudly. And people are oblivious. You know, people are oblivious. I went in to get my hair colored earlier this week. Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you.
And so you sit at a table while you're waiting for the color to get absorbed into your hair. And this woman that was about 1.5 feet across from me is talking on her phone 1.5 feet across from me the whole time. And you know, people, I don't know why it is that the tendency to talk louder when you're on your phone than you would talk in real life, you know what I mean? Blasting through the phone, just oblivious.
By the way, you know, that first texter, Tom said...
Had to take her to task, Jim.
I'm sure you did. Tom from Manchester said he needs his phone at work to listen to us. And one of our colleagues said, this is brilliant, the solution to Tom's problem, and others who listen to us on their phone during the day, is for employers to subsidize Eton emergency crank radios for all
Yeah, those
employees.
are one of our gifts during pledges, the Eton crank radio.
Just here, our colleagues did research. Cell phone policies, this is for schools, by the way, in Massachusetts vary. Many districts in our state have restrictions. On the other hand, states such as California and Connecticut apparently have statewide bans.
12 states. 12 states,
Is that
according to the story, yeah. 8 states have passed statewide policies banning or restricting cell phones in school, and another 12 states have introduced statewide legislation, same thing, that restricts cell phone use in schools, and education departments have recommended pilot programs to get rid of using cell phones in schools.
Yeah, by the way, one thing I want to say, because we try to be honest on the show, one of the inhibitors for Marjorie not doing this, you have to admit, occasionally you'll text me when you find our guest to be unconscionably boring. Would you not?
No,
and you text, and you say, when is she going to be done?
That's terrible.
I think you did it yesterday.
No,
Who was that for?
That's not true.
That's
not true. But you do text me messages, and sometimes if there's a problem, I text Jamie. But we have an excuse, I guess, if you need it. And we.
By the way, we text Jamie because the system we were promised 34 years ago hasn't quite been installed, so that he can communicate with us and the people back in Brighton.
We're working on it.
But we are told
Yep.
by the mid-century
We're working on it.
It's actually going to be in place.
John in the car, thank you for calling.
Hi, John in the car.
How you guys doing? I'm a constant listener.
You are?
Thank you.
And an occasional caller.
Love that.
One of the things in my office that's been driving me crazy is I'm one of the older gentlemen.
Yeah.
But these younger guys have been spending a lot of time on their phone, which was a little annoying because you can't get their attention to do what they're supposed to do, their little jobs. But now they're all playing a game together. One of these internet games. I don't know what the name of it is. Now they talk about this game, and they try to play this game during the day. Oh, I could get you this code, or I could do this. It's like incredible. It's like the social media thing has kind of taken over the whole atmosphere of the office.
Yeah. John, does your boss
so
know?
Frustrating.
Does your boss know this is going on, and does he or she care, or no?
Oh, he plays it along with them.
That's a good one, John. Thank you for their call.
Okay.
Your call, we appreciate
Down
it.
on the road says, take away the phone and give everyone a walkie-talkie. That will cut down on the distraction. And then listen to this. Our workplace, office, and labs has eliminated desk phones. While the main number rings at a security desk, there's no way for that call to reach an employee without a desk phone. That's no landlines,
How
I
long
guess.
we've worked here, you and I? 11 years and
11
about
years.
6 months. How many times have you used your landline?
Well, never. I don't have a landline.
Yes, you do. On your oh, yes, you do.
Oh, on my desk
on
at
your
work.
Desk.
Oh,
You have a landline. How many times have you used it?
Never.
Never. Nor have I. I've
No.
never answered it, never used it to call anybody. So why did I bring that up? Oh, because you brought it up.
Yeah.
Joe in a car, what's up?
Hi. Several years ago, I got access to a device sold in Europe, banned in this country, that would block phones. You turn it on, it would block cell phone reception.
Sounds like it's blocking your reception. Go ahead.
So I would use it if I went into a social situation like a bar or a restaurant, more for fun because you'd see people looking at your phone and going, I don't have any reception.
Wait a second. You just block yourself, or you block Joe?
Someplace inappropriate. But it was more a social bar, restaurant.
Do you block other people's ability to use their phone, or just your own? Exactly.
We can't hear
Joe, we have
It's a
bad connection. Thank you for the call, though. We appreciate it. 877-301-8970.
You know what we almost never talk about anymore?
No, I don't know.
Details, police details.
Yeah, why are we talking about that?
Because Bill in Bridgewater just texted and said, maybe we can start by banning police officers working road details from being on their cell phones constantly. Wasn't there just something that happened about details? They're going to be expanded to non-police officer.
By the way, I want to say something. By the way, I can't believe you're talking about details. But since you brought it up,
we almost never talk about it
who is the
anymore.
most humble person I ever know.
That's right, I'm
Who
very
is the
humble.
only governor in Massachusetts history who slightly curtailed the police details?
Deval Patrick.
And why did Deval Patrick? Don't be humble for a minute.
Because
Why did he
I
do
did
it?
harass him about it. Like we used to come
Every
in once a month.
Governor Patrick came in the studio. Marjorie harassed him
About details.
about police details, and he
And
finally.
it has changed a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
Like in cul-de-sacs and that sort of
In
thing.
cul-de-sacs, I think in some places that are within cities, people can decide to do it individually.
Do you know that
I'm
has
not sure.
absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about? You do
Well,
know that,
Bill in
right?
Bridgewater just called. It
Well, who
annoys him to
cares?
see police officers
Oh,
on their
I
cell
see.
phones
I see.
constantly when they're doing details. Ken from Coventry says these cell phones are just an addiction and nobody can live without them, which I think is part of the problem, right?
By the way, this anonymous texter makes a really good point. Two-factor authentication often requires a cell phone, but the solution for that is if the employer wants to ban cell phone use in the office, personal use, they have to provide you with a business cell phone that you can at least use during the day, if not all the time. That's pretty
Listen
simple.
to this one. How can I talk trash about my do-nothing colleagues if I can't text my work friends about it?
We'd never do that.
We would never do that.
No, we'd never
Absolutely
do
not.
that.
Laura in Holden, thank you for calling.
Hello, Laura.
Hi, I love you guys.
Thanks.
So glad to talk to you today. I wanted to share that my son is a senior in high school, and it has become common practice for all the teachers to have the students put their phones in these little cubbies before class even starts.
It's great.
And then pick them up at the end of class. And then it begs the question, though, they have the 2 minutes between classes to kind of binge.
That was a great laugh there, Laura. So how does that relate to your position, if you have one, on whether or not we should do the same with cell phones at offices, personal cell phones at offices?
Personally, I think it's a huge benefit to prevent the distractions from what the goal is, to either learn or do the job. So I am for, some maybe optional regulations for grown-ups, but a proposal to have a place to put them and then pick them up when you're on a break.
I'm totally with you, Laura. Well said. Thank you very much for your call. 877-301-8970.
Okay, a lot of people are texting about schools. Apparently at Cambridge Ridge and Latin in your town, they take away the phones in a lot of classes.
Great.
Yeah, BZ and Forge says Janet Hickam just had a feature on Brockton High School with pouches for phone lockups during the day. A lot of people are very upset about this therapist who apparently
the first
looks
caller?
at the phone during the session. But Ross in Brighton says she doesn't really have it so bad because how about having your therapist fall asleep during your session? And that's pretty bad. And this other texter suggests that Catherine, who had the therapist looking at her phone, that what Catherine should do is text her therapist.
That's brilliant. That is totally brilliant.
During the session. And the therapist
hey, doctor,
actually...
I'm here.
Yeah, a therapist, Karen from Norfolk, who is a therapist, said it was unacceptable for the therapist to be looking at her phone. The phone should be on Do Not Disturb and let her therapist know she noticed her looking at the phone during her session, which I assume she's paying for. You're paying,
I'm sure she's
$150, $200, whatever it is, an hour for therapy.
Whatever you're paying. It's not disrespectful.
That's right. Even if it's $25, Jim.
We got to take a break, Marjorie.
We got to take a break.
I said that.
We've talked a lot about taking cell phones out of schools, and apparently, even though we don't have a statewide ban in Massachusetts, a lot of individual school systems are doing it. What about taking the cell phones out of your office so you don't have to listen to your colleague on the phone all day long talking about how much you can't stand his wife or the dinner plans or what his kids are doing on the soccer fields? 877-301-8970 is the number to call or text. We're broadcasting from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Stand-up comedy may have started in the U.S., but the world has always been watching.
They turned on the TV, and there was comedy on TV, and I started laughing, and I just thought to myself, I want to be able to do that.
That's a comic from Zimbabwe, and now he has Americans in stitches. That story in the day's global news, next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Massachusetts Maritime Academy, the Commonwealth's leadership university. They offer a hands-on learning environment, helping to prepare their students to be global leaders in careers on land or at sea. Maritime.edu. And M. Steinert & Sons. Their holiday event is happening now through December 31st, featuring Steinway & Sons' Spirio Piano that recreates performances by Lang Lang, Horowitz, and more. msteinert.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I'm Jim Browdy, and she is Marge Regan. We're streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Did I say we're at the library? We're live at the library, and thank you. Next Wednesday, Mayor Wu will join us for an hour. There's a lot of news around the mayor. She'll be here for an hour to take your questions, and in about 10 minutes, you're going to hear some spectacular music. I think unlike probably anything you've ever heard. Our text prompt of the day at 877-301-8970. This is where Marjorie reads a bunch of your texts right before the 1 o'clock news. The man who wrote the lyrics to the Village People's classic song YMCA has gone full MAGA and insists the song is not, as we all believe for 40 years, is not about gay trysts at the gym. Are you buying this thing? And has Donald Trump ruined YMCA, or is the disco anthem simply too infectious to ignore? Text us your thoughts at 877-301-8970. I don't even believe them. If you're just tuning in, we're right now talking about America's not-so-secret smartphone addiction, and if our work lives might benefit, both the employer and us as employees, from everyone agreeing not to scroll on your phones. The number is 877-301-8970. Our friend Josiah from Provincetown texted me 10 minutes ago. He says, "Are you busy? Are you doing anything right now?" He was joking, by the way. And here's an interesting one, an anonymous texter right off the news. City Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson would not have allegedly been able to extort a $7,000 kickback if she didn't have her cell phone at work.
That's an excellent point.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Listen to this. I once heard a colleague who was always on his speakerphone say, "I'm in the car, on my way." So I yelled, "No, he's not."
That's great.
And then this is kind of a sad one. Stephen Natick says, "I text my daughters while I know they are at work, so when they don't respond, I can give them credit rather than being reminded that they don't respond to my texts anymore." Poor Steve.
That is really a depressing story.
And Jack from Townsend says, as a survivor of a helmet-free, free-range until sundown childhood in a home billowing with secondhand smoke, I have little sympathy with helicopter parents and their digital umbilical cords. Cut the cord when your kids are at the job or at school.
You know what's aggravating me now?
What?
When the text you read about people who are talking out loud. It's bad enough to use your phone.
Oh, when they talk out loud.
Go in another room.
That's
walk away and do this.
When I used to go take the train a lot to New York when I had 2 kids down there.
Yeah.
Quiet car. You got to go for the
I know
quiet
you
car.
love the
Otherwise,
quiet
you are
car.
listening to somebody's conversation.
Do they enforce that? Do they really take it? They do.
People in the quiet car. It's self-enforcement.
Really?
Oh, it's a tough crowd.
Meaning
in there.
somebody will yell at somebody.
Somebody will get up and say, "See the sign?
That's pretty
quiet
good.
car."
Are you that person?
I know. I've not done that because
Okay.
so many other people will do it before me. I don't even have to worry. Will from Providence is sick of Uber drivers on their phone when they're driving them around. You get that every once in a while, but sometimes they'll say to you, "Do you mind if I make a quick call?"
Yeah.
I don't mind that.
Let's take a call here. Caroline, you're in a car. You're on Boston Public Radio. Thank you much for calling. Hi.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Jim and Marjorie. Happy holidays.
And to you, Caroline.
So I work in a hospital, first of all, on a psych unit. So I feel really bad for that woman whose therapist is looking at the phone.
Ridiculous.
Terrible.
Horrible. And then the other thing is people that have the other person on speaker, and they're walking down in the hospital, like with the other person on speaker. Nobody makes eye contact. I was telling the person that answered the phone that some days I just try to count how many people aren't on their phone.
Who aren't on their phones. How about this? The speakerphone thing that you and Marjorie are talking about, would either of you have a problem if someone uses a speakerphone, like in a work environment, and it's not for everybody's consumption? How about 5 days in the clink? I mean, I'm serious. It is so disruptive and so rude. What do you do when someone's walking down the hall at the hospital or whatever with a speakerphone on?
Right.
What do you do?
And what about if it's confidential information?
That's another fine point. Hey, Caroline, thank you. Thank you for the call. We really appreciate it. Thanks. 877-301-8970 is our phone number.
Yeah, some people say that the Boston police are already not supposed to be using their phones on details, but sometimes you do see that.
Why don't you badmouth the Boston cops while you're at it, Margaret?
We had a wonderful
police union's very, very fond of you.
We had a wonderful police officer yesterday on
the
show.
He's a foreign police officer.
Who worked with gangs in the 80s and 90s and wrote a wonderful book about it. Started with the hats.
It did.
Yeah, it's a very
Paul Joyce.
Yeah, Paul
By the way,
Joyce.
anonymous texter says, add the police union to the list of unions not giving Marjorie awards.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be getting one from them or the teachers union
I
either.
don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to Craig from Georgia. Greg from Georgia. Hi, Greg.
Hello, Greg.
Hey guys, I'm from Boston, calling you from Georgia.
Got it.
Okay.
One of my pet peeves is being in the bathroom and the guy in the stall next to me is on his phone.
I'm so glad you called. Keep going.
Yeah, so I will flush the toilet so that the person on the other end of the line knows that dude is talking from the bathroom.
That is fabulous, Greg. That is fabulous.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Greg, thanks for calling. That's excellent advice for people.
This is an anonymous texter. I'm 28, have a lot of dinner parties, brunches. When friends come over to my house, I ask them to put their phones in a cardboard box. It's worked spectacularly.
I like that.
Even though all the people I have come over are bright and socially engaged, they all seem not to be able to separate themselves from their phones. Even in the middle of a conversation, they'll be scrolling on Instagram or TikTok and having the phones taken away completely has positively changed the atmosphere of our gatherings.
Wow.
How do you like that?
Pretty amazing. I like it very much. Let's go to Marianne in Worcester. Hi, Marianne.
Hi.
Hi.
I love your show. I've called before. I listened to Margie talking about the quiet car.
Yeah,
yes.
That'd be Marjorie here, yeah.
And I have to tell you,
Yeah.
I was on the quiet car at the Amtrak coming back from New York, and a woman got on her cell phone so loud. She talked about the people they were interviewing for a job. And how they wouldn't hire this jerk, and this one was foolish. She named the company, she named the people. Then she called her husband, and then she called the vet. And I swear to you, she gave her credit card number so loud we should have all written it down.
And Marianne,
and she gave her expiration date.
Wow, and no one on the quiet car got up and said, shut up? Usually it's quite a vigilante system there.
No, everybody was making faces. People got up and moved to some empty seats.
Hey, Marianne, after she gave her credit card number and expiration date, did you ask her for a 4-digit code, or did you not?
You know, I wanted to say something, but I get myself into trouble all the time.
Yeah.
I'm the one who tells people who don't pick up after their dogs, I'm going to take their picture, I'm going to report them, and I get threats.
You're my kind of woman, Marianne. Thank you for the call. Do you remember, I just realized this, about 20 years ago, you and I were at a restaurant preparing for a show, and somebody was very loud at the table next to us on their phone, essentially destroying the joy that all the restaurateurs...
Oh, that's right.
Who went over to them and politely asked them to put their phone down?
Yeah, you went over and asked them to put the phone down. That's right.
What did I do after that?
You came back to the table and ate all the food.
No. I ate some fries off their table, off their plate. I not only made them, that's a true story, not only made them stop talking, I took some fries.
Listen to this. Barbara says she's in the MRI waiting room at Mass General. A woman's on her phone and decides to listen to an old TV comedy out loud and was laughing hysterically over it. Can you imagine that?
No, I cannot.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it?
Yes.
Sharon and Randall? Where the hell is Randall? Where's Randall?
Where's Randolph?
Randolph, Massachusetts.
Oh, Randolph. Hi.
Oh, yes, I guess it's my accent.
No, I think it's us. But go ahead, Sharon. What's up?
So I'm with Barbara. I have made tons of videos on my TikTok video platform about this. I'm sitting in the waiting room at the hospital, and people are listening to their phone, right, like a video, and it's loud. That really gets to me. I'm dealing with my own anxiety, and you're listening to whatever, especially in a different language.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
That disturbs me badly. I can't stand when people do that. Get AirPods, get some sort of listening device. Everybody don't need to be hearing your business or your whatever you're listening to.
Sharon, that was excellent. I love to hear the exasperation in your voice. That was beautiful. Call us again. Thanks.
Here's a good one. How about your brother watching a football game on his phone during the Thanksgiving dinner? How about that?
I think, but Thanksgiving, I guess you shouldn't do that. I mean, no one wants to talk to anybody anyway. Do they? I'm serious.
I don't know.
Is anybody you wanted to talk to at your Thanksgiving dinner?
I have my family and my children are there. Yeah, I love it.
Talk to your children some other time. You can talk to them any day, can't you?
Yeah. Remember in the olden days when we talked about having a television in the middle of Thanksgiving Day table so people could watch the game? We
started the show so long ago, 25 years ago we started, Marjorie and I, that as Marjorie said, what happened, because there were not those wall-mounted TVs, the huge ones, people would literally, for those of you too young for this, people would take their portable television and put it smack dab in the middle of the Thanksgiving table dinner so they could watch the football games. It was just unbelievable.
Listen to this. I'm a physician's assistant. It's really frustrating. You're providing patients with a diagnosis, important medical information, and they're Googling what you tell them right in front of you instead of asking questions while you're in the exam room. And then some of them, without your permission, start recording you.
Well, you know what? I mean, the thing we have not said, one of the callers said, this is an invitation to exaggerated what is the word? Sociality? I know it's not a word, but no interaction with other human beings. I mean, isn't that part of the problem?
That's what they're talking about.
I know that.
That people would normally, walk to the snack room or walk to the bathroom or something in an office, and you might stop and talk to people on the way there, and now you're at your face in your cell phone and you don't. I think for some people it's a way to avoid talking to people.
Well, and also the other real problem for people like you and me, it really cuts down the time allotted to badmouth your coworkers. It's much better. You wouldn't agree to do it orally rather than to do it on your phone?
You're going to be careful what you text, Jim. You have to be very careful what you text.
Okay, we got to take a break.
We're going to take a break. We are moving on. because we're going to hear some spectacular music in just a second here at the Boston Public.
Listen, wait, before you go this, we were at my daughter's 5th grade. Who is this? Is this in a texter? We were at my daughter's 5th grade band concert. She was the only violin and had a solo. I pressed record to capture my kid's big moment, and the guy behind us got a call and took it. The entire audio of her solo is this guy's conversation. I mean, is that grotesque or grotesque?
That is grotesque. That's where you might have to take some action yourself when your kid's up there on the stage performing. The guy behind you is ruining the whole thing.
Okay.
Okay, enough of this.
Enough of this.
It is time for Live Music Friday. This week we're going to hear and talk live performances from 22-year-old Brazilian mandolin phenomenon Ian Corey ahead of a concert next Thursday in Roxbury. He's joined by his brilliant piano accompanists from where else but Berklee College of Music. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Part of the GBH News Equity and Justice Unit.
Working on a team that focuses on people that look like me, that sound like me, was something that I thought would be incredibly rewarding.
Reporter Trajan Warren.
Coming from a business reporting background, I focus on the dollars and cents in communities, but to really hone in on how those dollars and cents filter through communities is something that I look forward to doing every day.
Elevating issues of equity and justice. GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you and the School of the Museum of Fine Arts at Tufts University, hosting its annual art event December 6th through the 8th, connecting Boston area art lovers with contemporary art since 1978. Learn more at smfa.tufts.edu. And Z-Tech Associates. For more than 3 decades, Z-Tech has been committed to helping Boston area businesses with their information technology challenges by providing a wide variety of IT services. Learn more at ztechnet.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marge Regan. We're live at the library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Next Wednesday, we're at the library. Mayor Wu joins us for an hour of, obviously, Ask the Mayor. Our text prompt of the day, you text 877-301-8970. I'm sure you know the guy who wrote the lyrics to the Village People's classic disco, YMCA, has gone full MAGA and insists the song is not, despite what we all believe for 40 years, a gay anthem. What do you make of all that? What do you make of Donald Trump's embrace of YMCA? Text us your thoughts and reactions. Time now for some live music. Here with us at the BPL is Brazil's own Ian Corey, who at 22 is making serious waves in the world of Brazilian choro music, thank you. Embracing traditions while pushing the sound in new directions. Next Thursday, December 12th, he'll be performing with the Ian Corey Quartet at Long Live Roxbury Brewing Company. That's in Roxbury, obviously. You go to longlivebeerworks.com as the website, or go to his Instagram at Ian_Corey. He joins us today with Ukrainian-American pianist Maxim Lubarsky. We'll talk with Ian and Maxim in a moment. First, they're going to perform. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. God. Just great, gentlemen. Just come join us if you would, please. Maxime Lubarsky on piano and Ian Corey on something that is very much like a mandolin. We'll find out exactly what it is in a couple of seconds as they join us, put their headphones on.
Okay.
That was fabulous, you could too. That was really fabulous.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What was that you just played?
This is a composition called Bora Brasil. I composed this one.
You did?
In the pandemic, yeah.
And why the mandolin? How did you come to? And it's a different kind of mandolin, right?
Yes, this one is a 10-string Brazilian mandolin. Traditionally, the mandolin has 8 strings, and I choose. Actually, this could sound cheesy, but like the mandolin chose me because when I was 7 years old, I wanted to start to play an instrument, and I came to my father and said, I want to play an instrument, and he said, all right, what do you want to play? And I said, the guitar. And he was like, no, the guitar is too big for you. And I said, okay, then I want to play the drums. And he said, no, you're going to kill my ears, you know. Like and then I was, okay, so what should I play? And then I started playing cavaquinho, which is like a Brazilian ukulele. And then I went to a show for this guy. His name is Armandinho Macedo. And then I met the mandolin for the first time. I was sleeping at the table. He entered, boom, played the open strings. I fell in love.
That was it.
Yeah, that was it.
That's
I never
a great
stopped
story.
playing.
That's a
Maxime,
great story.
how'd you two hook up? How'd this connection happen?
We met, I think first time we met at Hamilton, the Yolanda show.
The show? The Broadway show?
No, Hamilton. He's an incredible mandolin player.
Okay.
From Brazil. But we knew of each other through a mutual friend. And then we met there, and then we got to play together with Hamilton, actually, later, like that week. And then from there on, we started playing, and then we started playing together.
Were you his teacher?
For this semester, actually, I was.
Yes. What are you teaching him?
I don't know. We just play. That's the best job ever.
You know, I pardon my ignorance, because I don't have. My only regret in life, actually, is I don't play an instrument. You don't play that instrument, right?
Not at all.
So how do you teach him?
It's a great question.
Thank you.
I think I think the truth is in music. Once you can play an instrument, then things go way beyond a specific instrument. So then the music is much more connected between instruments.
Is he any good as a teacher?
He is one of the best I have.
Why? Why is he good?
Because he knows a lot, like about music theory, about Brazilian music, jazz. He's a really complete musician. He knows a lot about harmony, melody, rhythms, and improvisation.
Slow writing down.
Yeah.
Is mandolin usually? I don't know much jazz that has a mandolin in it.
Yeah.
That's unusual, right?
That's true. Yes, it's unusual. Yeah, you're right.
And tell us what choro music. What does that mean?
Yeah. So choro is the first genuine genre from Brazil. So the first one, and it emerged in the 19th century. Like jazz, the first recording of jazz is the same year of the first recording of choro. And choro is the mixture of lundu, which is an African dance from Africa, of course, when Brazil were colonized. Right, I'm from Brazil. And mixed also with the European music, the classical music in general. So then, because of this mixing and choro emerged. Yes.
How big is jazz in Brazil?
It is big, but of course, here is much bigger, but in Brazil, yeah, we play some jazz there too. Yeah.
How about Ukraine?
I think every country, as far as I know, has jazz movement. In Ukraine, there are a lot of great jazz musicians. Again, comparing to US, probably not as many. It's kind of a mecca, but and it was prohibited for a long time.
Is that so?
Soviet Union. There was this whole thing, today you play jazz, tomorrow you sell your country, kind of thing. But there was still, a lot of people into jazz, and now there are a lot of great musicians there for sure.
But Maxime, I think most people think of Ukraine, which was part of Russia, and a lot of Europe actually. It's much more the classically trained musicians and pianists, which is what you were.
Yeah. There's definitely a very strong classical school for any instrument. Piano is considered kind of one of the strongest. Tradition of Soviet Union, Russia, Ukraine. There are a lot of great musicians came out of it. So for sure, it's more classically inclined, I would say. Jazz was a bit more underground movement, but still, there are always great musicians, and there are schools actually who teach that as well now in many cities. So
You know, we say quite often on the show that our late great colleague Brian O'Donovan used to say live music is where it's at, and I've so hearing you play, and we did last night online, is huge. Watching you play is a whole different experience. You, Ian, exude joy when you're playing. You, Maxime, are like you're transported to another planet. I can't even, you are almost like in a different world from, do you feel that way when you're doing this?
I guess so. I mean, I'm in this world most of the time. but I definitely, I think, as people say, the music, you have to be very present. So I think that's a big part of that. You have to be in the moment as it's happening. And it is, you're kind of creating something in the moment. Yeah.
You know, if I can just say, I was trying to think when you were coming here, other than Stairway to Heaven, I think has a mandolin thing in it. I mean, mandolin is not nearly as big an instrument as every time I hear it played, I think it should be. Why is it almost like a second-tiered? I don't mean in terms of quality, I mean in terms of how much you hear it. Why do you think that is?
I think because like traditionally the mandolin, the type of music like we play with the mandolin, here in US more country and bluegrass, and in Brazil more choro and samba, they always box us in this type of of genres, right? But I'm trying to like go away from that, and play jazz and play everything and show that this instrument is,
mainstream music.
Yeah, exactly. You can play anything
music,
with this, especially with the 10 strings that has this extra low C. Yeah.
We're talking to Ian Corey and Maxime Lubarsky. They're going to be performing at the Long Live Roxbury Brewing Company in Roxbury on Thursday night. And Ian, I've read that you not only got a new CD coming out, but you're also writing a book about the mandolin. What are you going to say in that book about the mandolin?
Yeah, so this instrument, it's really, really brand new. Like, we don't know exactly when it emerged, like when we came out, but the way we play, like playing the melody and the harmonies in the 10 string, we don't have a book, we don't have anything about it yet. So I'm starting to write like the first like technical book for this instrument, like how to handle, how it works, the scales, the basic chords. We don't have this, so we need that.
Your technique, both of you, is unbelievable. I mean, you are really moving those fingers 90 miles an hour. And tell us about the new CD.
Yeah, and this new album, I'm going to record in Brazil now in January with a guitar player. His name is Igor Souza, and a Brazilian percussionist, Larissa Umaitá. We're going to record. And I also have crowdfunding going on. Yeah.
How do people find that if they want to contribute?
So if you enter in my Instagram, Ian _Copley, right? You go into my
Coury.
Exactly. You go into my bio, like links, and then you're gonna see there. And if you can contribute, it's gonna help us a lot. You can change also the language from the website. It's in Portuguese, but you can change to English.
Is next Thursday night the two of you, or is there who's playing?
Quartet. It's a quartet.
What else is joining you, Maxime?
Mark Walker, an incredible drummer, multi-Grammy, Latin Grammy winner, and
Ian Ashby,
a bass player.
One of the exciting things about you, Ian, beyond how wildly talented you are, is that you're here. And Margie and I were talking about you after having watched you play last night. But you plan to leave town when you're done school. Why?
Yeah, I'm planning to go to New York for a bit, to make some new contacts there, to play. I want to be a performer. So I think going to New York is going to open a little bit, these new doors and to make new connections.
Not as much opportunity in Boston? Is that the concern?
Yeah, not much here, for real. If you're not like connected or related to a school or college, you just want to live by playing is not the best place to be.
Maxime, we only have a minute left before you guys are going to play for us again. But I just wondered, everybody that comes here, well, not everybody, but most everybody that comes here has got some association with Berkeley. I wonder if you go up there to Mass Ave, where Berkeley is, do we have all these practice rooms? You can walk through the hallways and hear the pianist there, the mandolinist there.
Yeah.
That's going to be pretty wild every day.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Because
You
that's
hear
where
a lot of music. You walk in, every door, something's going on.
All those practice rooms.
Well, practice rooms, classrooms, but yeah, there are practice rooms. There are separate practice rooms for pianists. We do have that, so you usually hear only pianos there. But there are also practice rooms for everyone, so you do hear a lot of music.
That's
There's
great.
a hallway, saxophone, piano, singing.
But you know what's
everything.
also great? When you're on Mass Ave outside.
You can hear
and you
it.
See, no, you can't.
You can't?
You see people play, but you
the
can't
window.
hear
Yeah.
the
Oh, you
sound.
can't hear it
It
because
is
of-
so
oh, I
dramatic
didn't
and
know that.
beautiful
Yeah, they
when you
built
just
the
see
new-
the players.
Yeah.
It was relatively recently done, but they created this windows.
It's beautiful.
For the ensemble room, so you can actually see people playing.
What are you going to play this time for us, Ian?
We're gonna play a tune called Incompatibilidade de Gênios by João Bosco. It's a Brazilian standard tune. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
You want to walk? By the way, that is so beautiful. It's just
With his
a
name on
beautiful
it.
instrument.
We've got Ian Corey and Maxime
Oh, there it
Lubarsky.
is,
They're
yes.
going to play this Thursday, December 12th at the Long Live Roxbury Brewing Company. I want to make sure I get that right. The Long Live Roxbury Brewing Company in Roxbury, December 12th. LiveLongBeerWorks.com. LongLiveBeerWorks.com. I apologize.
You want to say it one more time?
LongLiveBeerWorks.com is the website where you can get all the information. LongLiveBeerWorks.com. Ian Corey and Maxime Lubarsky.
Gentlemen, take it away.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Willis' wife threatens to sue anybody who claims otherwise. We'll talk with GBH arts and culture reporter James Bennett about that and more, and we'll ask your thoughts in our text segment of the day, 877-301-8970. Could the YMCA song really be anything other than a gay anthem? Text us your thoughts next. Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington.
And will not tolerate threats near its border. Though one of the leading rebel groups is a UN-designated terrorist organization, the rebel advances in some ways benefit Israel, cutting off Iranian supply routes and weakening Iran in general. Iran has used Syria to smuggle weapons to Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Israelis have continued to strike at Syrian targets to block those arms shipments. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
Congressional hearings investigating the
congressional action. So now we're going to continue to push for the reform that's necessary.
The task force is planning to release its final report in the coming weeks. TikTok is facing a ban in the United States after an appeals court panel upheld a law that will force the popular app to divest. President Biden signed bipartisan legislation this year that forces the platform's China-based parent company to sell. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have argued the site poses a threat to national security. Employers in the U.S. added 227,000 jobs last week, NPR's Raphael Nam reports.
All in all, the U.S. labor market remains solid. Yes, there is a little bit of a slowdown from earlier in the year, but so far it's nothing too concerning. The unemployment rate ticked up to 4.2%. That was more or less in line with expectations, but it is something that will spark debate among economists about whether it signals an area of concern. The data comes ahead of the Federal Reserve's policy meeting later this month. Investors are tentatively expecting another cut in interest rates, but a lot will depend on the inflation data out next week. Raphael Nam, NPR News.
This is NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Boston City Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson will appear in federal court this afternoon after her arrest this morning on federal corruption charges. GBH's Tori Bedford has details from a press conference this morning with federal officials at Boston's Moakley Courthouse.
Prosecutors argue that Fernandez Anderson orchestrated a kickback scheme last year, giving a $13,000 bonus to a relative on her staff with the understanding that the counselor would get some of the cash back. U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts Joshua Levy claims Fernandez Anderson needed the money to pay off fines she'd racked up after violating state ethics rules by hiring family members.
Ms. Fernandez Anderson chose to violate her fiduciary duty and defraud the city of Boston, the indictment alleges, rather than find a legal means to pay off that debt.
Levy says other people are also being investigated as part of an ongoing probe. At the Moakley Federal Courthouse, Tori Bedford, GBH News, 89.7.
The city of Gloucester is the latest community to challenge the MBTA Communities Act. The controversial law requires communities served by the T to allow multifamily housing around transit stations. Communities that refuse lose access to some state funding. Gloucester City Council had approved a zoning plan to comply with the law, but a group of residents collected enough signatures to put that issue on a citywide ballot. No date has been set yet for when that vote will take place. In October, the state Supreme Judicial Court heard a challenge to the law brought by the town of Milton. A ruling there has not yet been issued. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One with the Capital One Quicksilver Card. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation at rwjf.org.
Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Eakin. Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. On Wednesday, we're going to be joined by the Boston Mayor, Michelle Wu. She'll take our questions and yours. And I want to remember, hello again, Jim, but before we talk anymore, I want to remind everybody about the text prompt of the day at 877-301-8970. The man who wrote the lyrics to the Village People's classic disco hit that has gone full MAGA, YMCA, insists the song is not, as we all believe for 40 years, a gay anthem about anonymous hookups at the aforementioned YMCA. Do you take him at his word? Has Donald Trump ruined YMCA, or is the disco anthem too simply infectious to ignore? Text us your thoughts. We'll read them at around 12:55. The number again, 877-301-8970.
Hi, I just want one more, PS, I don't know what it is, announcement, because you mentioned the mayor. We're starting to get complaints that we haven't had the governor on for November and December and criticizing us. We want to be totally clear. We have been trying our damnedest to get the governor to join us for her monthly thing. So if you are concerned that she is not here, feel free to contact her and tell her we are waiting with open arms.
She doesn't like us anymore, Jim.
In any case, we're joined now at the library by Dr. Catherine Gergen-Barnett. Is that her name, Marjorie? Catherine Gergen-Barnett?
Gergen-Barnett. I said
something like that.
Burnett Gargan or something.
Whatever. We know who she is. It's a woman over here. Vice Chair of Primary Care Innovation and Transformation at Boston Medical Center, Associate Professor at BU Medical School, and an Aspen Institute Health Innovators Fellow. Doctor, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
With you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, before we went on the air, I was mentioning to you how I was surprised initially, but actually it makes perfect sense that when the CEO of United Healthcare was assassinated, basically, 50 years old, Brian Thompson, the reaction was less about the assassination and much more about people's rage over United Healthcare and other health insurers and their health care in general. But you're a primary care physician.
Yeah.
You understand that.
Yeah, I mean, first let me just start with the man, Brian Thompson, and nobody should have been shot, and I think that he is a perfect kind of representative of the anger that the everyday person has who experiences medical debt and is at the mercy of insurance companies sending out denial claims. So as people know, the bullets had deny, defend, oppose written on them. And so while we still don't know the motive of the person who shot him, obviously there's a lot of supposition, and as we also know, lots on social media. And people really feeling like they finally have the avenue to vent their pure anger about what is happening right now with insurance companies. So we know that United Health actually is a $560 billion company in terms of the valuation. United Healthcare, which Thompson is the CEO of, has $280 billion of revenue. And so then you look at people, 41% of Americans say that they have some sort of medical debt. They're living with medical debt. And there's a lot of...
And they're insured.
And they're insured. What is happening right now in terms of thinking about claims that are sent out. So there's a lot of... truth, and also we're trying to figure out how much truth there is behind the AI component of claims that are sent out. So we're seeing that 90% of claims are rejected. So in other words, when 90. So when patients are asking for something, 90% are rejected, with the understanding that in some literature that only 0.2% of people are going to go back and fight those claims. And so, you look at that disparity, and wow. Again, looking at the people who are bearing the burden of medical debt, including those who have health insurance. And again, it just shows that the everyday person is under a huge amount of stress and financial burden, and it's hard not to blame the sort of barren of health insurance companies.
A couple of things here. One, just a little add-on to your factoid there.
Yeah.
The primary cause of personal bankruptcy in the United States of America is medical debt from those who have health insurance.
Correct.
That's all you need to know. That's number one. Number two, just give people one example. Everybody's got their own horror story. Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. Oh, yeah. When this was texted to us the other day, I thought it was a joke when I first heard it. They have since rescinded this because of the rage. Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, correct me if I'm wrong, announced about a week ago that if your operation goes longer because the people doing the operation think they need more time to complete the surgery. If it goes longer than was originally agreed upon, they will stop paying for the anesthesia at the termination of the agreed upon time. So if your 60-minute surgery actually takes 80 minutes, you're going to be responsible for 20 minutes of anesthesia, which is wildly expensive. Now, the reason I told that story is the rage caused them immediately to withdraw this. And the question, which I know is all hypothetical, will the rage that was generated in following the killing of Brian Thompson lead to something? Is this going to provide some ammunition for the Bernie Sanders of the world and others, conservative politicians, who know that their constituents are getting screwed? Will it, or is it a one-and-done kind of deal?
You know, I mean, again, we should never have to have a murder to create such forward momentum. But I think to your point, Jim, actually, do you know that announcement from Anthem came out the exact same day?
No.
I didn't know that.
Thompson was killed.
I didn't know
So
that.
it was the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Connecticut, New York, and Missouri, which put this forward, saying, you know, you only get so many minutes covered with anesthesia. And anesthesiologists and patients came out with rage, and they immediately withdrew it. So there is some hope that there's going to be increased awareness. And actually, there was this great analogy that I heard in terms of, you know, those people who are history buffs. In 1872, Fisk, who was a great railroad baron, was walking down the stairs of a fancy New York hotel and got shot. And there was this actually created a whole revolution of moving against sort of big businesses.
Well, here's what I want to know: is this primarily greed? You mentioned the huge profits. You look at how much Mr. Thompson, he sold at one point about 30% of his stock in United Health and got $15 million. That's in addition to his $10 million salary, and the rest of the stock that he owned in the millions. That's many millions. Is this about the greed, or is it about private equity, or what is this about?
I mean, it's definitely multifactorial. I will say the finances are a huge part of it, but if we also think about the ways in which people who are getting higher and higher up in these businesses aren't having conversations and having exposure to the everyday person, right? So part of it is just maybe ignorance of what the experience is like on the other end.
Well, you see that all the time.
It's my daily life.
Because Boston Medical Center is a
safety net hospital.
What do you call it?
Safety net
hospital. A lot of working class people or people without insurance are there. So what kind of things?
Well, not without insurance, because we're in Massachusetts.
That's right.
So, but mostly Medicaid, high percent of Medicaid and dual eligible, so Medicaid, Medicare, and Medicare as well. So we are, fighting insurance claims all the time.
Do you see people trying to choose between paying their rent and
100%.
You do.
In fact, I just had a patient yesterday who was put on a plan without even his knowledge. And they were saying to him, you have 7 days to decide who your new doctor is going to be. And this is a person with multiple complex comorbidities. He had had a stroke. He has complex diabetes. And I'm managing all of that with his specialists. And he would never want to change care. And so we had to spend the afternoon with him trying to get him back on the right insurance.
Can I say one last thing? You are too nice a person. Your position or your assertion that it's because they're so distant they don't know what's going on is, with all due respect, total BS. They know.
I did say it's multifactorial.
They know.
I'm not saying finances don't play a huge role.
They know everything that's going on, in my opinion. They know that they own every legislature in America. They own Congress, and they can take as much money out of the system as they can put in a wheelbarrow and tow away. Because we're all sheep. The people are sheep.
We are sheep.
And our legislators are totally in the tank. So with all due respect, I think they know it all.
But before we move on, do you think this is going to be any kind of turning point?
As I stated before, I'm very hopeful. And I will also just kind of put a finer point on it, Jim. I have I have no sense that finances aren't a huge part, and they play a role in our federal and our state government. We know that people who are running for positions are also getting funding from insurers. So it is not to say that we don't actually need to seriously drill down into the factors.
I hate to be negative, but in answer to your question, there were 26 and 7-year-olds murdered at Sandy Hook. What was the gun reform that came out of that?
There was none.
None, yeah, because
There
again,
was
they're
none.
owned by the
But
gun
you know-
lobby,
but
and
you know
these
what?
people are owned
I think
by
this
the health
is,
insurers.
I think this is
might be
different.
different.
I think
hope.
it's different because everybody
That's a
worries
good
about their
point.
health.
That's a
Everybody
good
has
point.
insurance or may not be able to get insurance in some states. You think you're not going to be shot.
Can we move on to an issue, the medical part, not the
Yes,
political part
please.
of what is in my opinion, a political case before the
Yes.
Supreme Court of the United States. I think it was argued on Wednesday whether state laws like one in Tennessee that prohibit gender-affirming care for minors, if states can ban that kind of care or if the ban is unconstitutional. The conventional wisdom, which I know is dangerous, but the conventional wisdom for those who listen to the oral argument is the conservative majority of the Supreme Court is going to sustain laws like Tennessee, which ban that care. Forget the politics. Talk about the medical necessity or lack of whatever. Talk about the medical reality of gender-affirming care for young people.
Yeah, so what's before the Supreme Court, comes because of the law that was passed in Tennessee last year, as you said, banning all gender-affirming care. And actually, it was a brave 3 sets of families and a doctor and the ACLU who are then in front of the Supreme Court fighting the Tennessee lawmakers. And they are specifically focusing on puberty blockers and hormones. So puberty blockers, which we know as GnRH agonists in medicine, specifically go and when you give them to somebody who's just hit puberty, it prevents their testicles or their ovaries from making more hormones. So it gives them a space to decide what gender they want to be. It gives them 2 years, up to 2 years of sort of respite of being in a hard decision-making time while they get very in-depth counseling and are offered many other services. And then they can decide to either come off of those medications and go forward in their puberty as a young woman or a young man, or they can be given hormones to go to the alternative. So what we know is that Tennessee has said, in their words, they said they have compelling interest in encouraging minors to appreciate their sex. So they are, inviting youth to be basically just appreciating whatever gender they are born into, despite the fact that there's calculations of up to 114,000 youth living in states currently where there's banning or limited access to gender-affirming care. I just will say, so I have spent, we live in Massachusetts. BMC has a gender-affirming care unit. I know there's been a lot of press recently around Children's Hospital and their gender-affirming care. This is absolutely, the ways in which these multidisciplinary care teams currently operate, where they really look around bringing families in, doing the psychological evaluation, absolutely supporting people in terms of what pronouns they use, what names they use. And medicines are a part of those options, but are not, the answer. So I will say in terms of the data, there's the scientific evidence. If you look, there was a big report that just came out 2 weeks ago from the RAND Corporation, and it looked at 105 scientific reports, and that said, when you look at every single part of gender-affirming care, it still moves towards the positive direction in terms of improving depression, reducing suicidality, and reducing anxiety and improving quality of life for those less than 18 years of age who are getting some sort of gender-affirming care. So there is absolutely continued research that needs to happen, in part because the data so far in terms of scientific long-term outcomes for some of these medications is really seen in groups of people who have been taking these medications for precocious puberty, for cancers that actually need this kind of medicine to block hormones to make, prevent cancers from growing. So we do have longitudinal evidence in certain diseases, but we don't have them necessarily in youth for, in terms of longitudinal
And the point
data.
that you made yesterday in our discussion, Marjorie, was those uses of
Yes,
these drugs
you can get them.
are perfectly legal
You
in
can get
these
them
states
for
like Tennessee.
anything
Only if you're a
except
trans
if you want
kid.
to transition, and that's one of
Correct.
the bases
That's one
of
of
the
the
case.
arguments.
That's one of the
Exactly.
arguments that,
Yeah.
that it's discriminating against these kids.
That's
But I was
correct.
also thinking, just on a practical
Yes.
level, if you do get these puberty blockers and you decide this is where you want to let your boy, you're going to be a trans woman, girl, but that later on in life you will physically more resemble a man or a woman. If you're a boy and gets these blockers, chances are you're not going to grow as big and huge as you might otherwise, which will make your life when you're 20 and 30 and 40, I would think, much easier.
Yeah, I mean that's the idea is that if you're allowing somebody to embody the life that they feel most akin to, like. And it's not the fact that we can't and shouldn't be studying this more. We absolutely should. But to actually put a ban is the wrong way to go. It is going to create more pain and suffering for these families and their children. It's going to have providers leave states, right?
Yeah.
So it creates less access in a lot of other ways. And it's also, by the way, going to reduce psychological support for these kids, and all of the other things that we know benefit them. So it's really it's a very short-sighted way of taking care of a huge important part of our population.
And yet another example of elected officials who know absolutely nothing about medicine or healthcare interfering in a relationship between a
Parent,
healthcare
yes.
provider, a parent, and a
Correct.
kid.
Yep.
We're talking to Dr. Catherine Gergen Barnett.
So I was very interested in what you thought about the primary care physicians at MGH. I think there's about 300 of them that have joined a union. And then the Cambridge Health Alliance.
No, it's a lot more. There were 400 picketing.
I'm sorry. Yeah, how many is it altogether?
I don't know what the number is.
And
but
then
it's
over the Cambridge Health Alliance, it's physicians and psychologists and other
Clinicians,
people that are involved with wanting to unionize. Have they unionized or do they want to unionize?
They're about to. Yeah, they're in the process.
Because they're
of
so
it.
upset, not necessarily about money and benefits, but about burnout and working conditions.
Yeah.
And you're a primary care person.
I am.
For those who don't know.
I was not out picketing, but actually, just to put a finer point, yesterday 400 residents were out. So the residents of MGB have unionized. They unionized last year, and they said, "You guys have not made good on any of your promises.
Really?
You gave us a pay raise. It was 2.25%. That's below the rate of inflation in our city. How are we supposed to live on this?" There was a guy who was out there saying he's sold his serum 4 times in the last year just to make ends meet. As a resident living in Boston, and he's working, 65 hours a week. And so, we know that that's one piece of it, right? So the residents. And then the primary care union is another piece, which is a whole another section of primary care physicians, and it goes through the concierge medicine too, feeling like they're undervalued, they're overworked, and that we're not given enough time with our patients who are increasingly more complex. Not to mention, we're having to take care of all the insurance claims, right, that are coming back to us. So I think it's a really interesting moment in Boston, right, because we have not traditionally seen unions of attending physicians. We have seen unions of residents. In fact, I was part of a union in residency, but it's less so for professionals
So
and
is
people
this
further
again-
out.
By the way, you're right about it. It's doctors 300, it's residents 400,
Correct.
so both numbers.
Yeah.
Is it greed at the top here again, or what is going on?
Whew, wow, we could talk about this all day. I mean, it's absolutely true that specialists get paid a lot more.
Yeah.
We mentioned it last time, a couple weeks ago when we were talking, which is that the history of the American Medical Association and what's called the RUC, where we have specialists sit down and decide what they're going to be paid for certain claims. So specialists have traditionally gotten a lion's share for certain procedures that they do, and primary care doctors don't get paid at all for a number of things, including counseling and coordination of care and responding to messages from patients late at night and thinking through all those pieces. So those are not kind of CPT codes that we are seeing. So it is a lot of people kind of fighting for a piece of land, and primary care doctors maybe being too nice in the process.
We don't have time to get into this today, but we're definitely going to continue this next time you're here. And one thing, you know better than we, a primary care shortage to begin with, which is in part what this is in response to. But now that we read, a former colleague of ours wrote a piece in the Globe about the concierge medicine.
Yes.
And for those that don't know it, this is the deal where if you're upset you can't get your healthcare provider on the phone, or you don't have enough access, you pay anywhere from $3,000 to $20,000 premium a year. You get to go to doctors who have far fewer number of patients. You have their cell phone. You can talk to them all the time. Now, that's good for those who can afford it. The bad news is most people can't afford it, and it drains even more primary care physicians away from primary care like you do, which just exacerbates the shortage.
Correct. It's a lot easier to take care of fewer patients and have more time with them.
And make more money.
And make twice the amount.
Yeah, exactly.
We are almost out of time, but just correct me if I'm wrong about this. Getting back to the trans thing, the AMA, American Medical Association, which is a pretty conservative group, doesn't really stick their neck out in general, I don't think, has come down and said they need this protection for these trans kids. They have come down on that side. Yeah. That's the American Medical Association.
Yeah, American Academy of Pediatrics. The NAACP, lots of organizations are coming up and saying we need to protect our kids.
Okay.
Yeah, but the Supreme Court's position is where those doctors know about medical care. We're the ones who understand about reproductive health and trans health. It's an abomination. It's great to see you, Doctor.
It's wonderful being with you.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it.
We have been speaking with Dr. Catherine Gergen-Barnett, Vice Chair of Primary Care Innovation and Transformation at Boston Medical Center, Associate Professor at Boston University Medical School and Aspen Institute Health Innovators Fellow. Thank you very much, Doctor. Okay, after a quick break, we're going to talk with GBH's James Bennett, our colleague. He's going to tell us about his favorite movies of 24, his favorite albums of 24, and the big streaming artist winner, the most streamed artist on Spotify this year. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It's been almost 30 years since actors Ralph Fiennes and Juliette Binoche shared the screen. Their new film, The Return, based on the Odyssey, is all about reunion.
When this project brought us together, I think we both recognized that it felt inevitable.
A joy. I'm Elsie Chang. An epic poem and an epic reunion hit the big screen on All Things Considered from NPR News.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Cleary Insurance. For over 30 years, Cleary Insurance has provided commercial and personal clients with advice and insurance coverage from carriers like Arbella Insurance. Learn more at clearyinsurance.com. And Rogers Fish Company, founded by Roger Berkowitz. You can give the gift of New England seafood dishes, including double clam chowder, crab cakes, lobster, and fish delivered to your doorstep. Online ordering at rogersfishco.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy, Marge Regan, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Next Wednesday, we're back here. We're back Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, as always. Ask the Mayor with Mayor Michelle Wu for an hour on Wednesday. One last reminder about a text prompt of the day. That's where Marjorie reads some of your texts right for the 1 o'clock news at 877-301-8970. The man who wrote the lyrics to the Village People's classic disco hit, YMCA, has gone full MAGA and insists the song is not, as we all believe for 40 years, a gay anthem about anonymous hookups at the Y. Really? Are you believing him? And what do you think about Donald Trump's embrace of YMCA as his theme song? In any case, that's 877-301-8970. We're joined now at the desk by James Bennett II, arts and culture reporter for GBH and a co-host of The Culture Show, daily at 2 on 89.7 GBH, live today from the Boston Public Library for their weekend review. Hello, James.
Yo, what's up?
And to you.
Well, nothing is better than talking about best of. I
I'm
love
with
that
you.
kind of
Best
stuff.
of.
So, tell us, the film you like most this year?
I was like thinking so hard about this question before, getting here at the library
I know,
today.
it's very
I was
upsetting.
like, what's the most profound thing? What's the coolest answer? And it doesn't matter because you like what you like, and I really like challengers. And that's the film of the year for me because I saw it, I think, 3 times in theaters.
Really?
So that doesn't include, seat backs on planes or clips on YouTube. I gave it a lot of my money this year.
Yeah, okay. We have a little clip from this, right?
Yeah.
This is, how do you pronounce churro scene? Did I say it right?
Wait, who? What?
Churro scene.
The famous churro scene from Challenges.
Oh, yes.
It demonstrates a constant battle between Patrick and Art over their relationship with Tashi. And here they are eating those churros in the cafeteria.
Did she say something to you?
No.
I just got the impression she's not thinking about this as a serious relationship. You got that impression? From a conversation we had. Huh. Snake. Honestly, I'm proud of you. I've been doing the same thing.
I'm not doing anything.
It's fine. It's exciting to see you this way. It's what's been missing from your tennis. What?
By the way, if people don't know the name Challenger, there's another name for the film. 3 Beautiful People Have Sex. That's the name. So is that why? Well, no, they don't.
A love
but they
triangle.
come pretty close.
The 2 men are both in love with this woman.
Both in love with this woman, and who knows, maybe they're both in love with each other too. That's what real friendship is about.
Can you tell people what the movie's about before you tell us why you loved it?
Okay, so the very brief rundown of this movie, basically there are 2 best friends, Patrick and whoever else it is, whose name I forget, that are both tennis players. They play as partners, and then they both fall in love with another tennis player, Tashi, played by Zendaya. And they basically have a duel on the court for her heart. One of the players obviously wins. They get together, and then the third player breaks them up. And then the twist is that later on in their careers, this third player that broke up and then got with Tashi, Zendaya's character, they get married and she becomes his coach after she suffers her own career-ending injury. And so the title of the movie, Challengers, comes from, before these major Grand Slam tournaments, right? You can enter as a wild card on these small kind of competitions. And they find themselves together again, back on the court, one-on-one, and that's the tension. I don't know if I did a great job explaining that.
No, you did.
I love the scene where she's sitting between the 2 of them on the edge of the bed. That's very sexy. They all are gorgeous-looking people.
James has seen that scene 3 times. I have seen
one for each actor.
You didn't tell us. I assume it's because you're a huge tennis champion. Well, other than that, what was the allure of this film for you?
It was the most fun I had in a theater, and I was thinking about what that meant, and it's so energetic and kinetic. Like there's this one scene, or this one part in the scene at the end, the final match, these 2 challengers coming head to head, where you kind of become the ball, which I've never really seen before.
He's going like this.
So yeah, the camera is just, twisting and rocketing back and forth. You can keep your head on and hopefully not get too dizzy. And also, and we'll get to this eventually, but the score for that by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross is like phenomenal. And like I went through a phase where I listened to that, beginning to end, maybe for like 7 to 10 days. Just
God.
That's your favorite album of the year we hear too. It's convenient.
It's definitely up there. It was such an easy thing to do, It's
a one-off kind of thing.
It's a one-off,
Okay.
You have a little music there?
we got the song from Challengers, Match Point, from the Challengers movie original, as we were just talking about. Here it is.
Music. They actually played Boston, 9 Inch Nails, that is, played Boston Calling, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. And just being able to see, the versatility, of their musicianship, it's really something. And I'm going to go listen to this. I can't wait for this segment to be done so I can go across the street prep for the culture show and listen to the soundtrack again.
Okay.
So without going into great, what didn't make the number one in terms of films? What would be 2 or 3 or 4? Just give us a quick hit on some of your other favorites.
Favorites that I saw this, well, in a weird way, I want to bring up again kind of like Megalopolis, because that was one of the more kind of like brain-scratchy things, you know, that I had seen in theaters. I also want to...
This is the Coppola epic that most critics love to hate.
With Adam Driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, Conclave.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah.
You saw that, right?
I did see that.
Explain what that's about.
It's about choosing the next pope.
They gotta find the pope.
They gotta find the pope.
You know, and what's funny about Conclave is, like, I went through this phase where I saw the trailer. I was like, I can't wait to watch this. And then a colleague of ours, who I respect greatly, went to a screening and was like, it was okay. It wasn't like, you know, the most hyped thing ever. And I was like, diminished. And then I found out that it was rated PG, and I was like, come on. I was like, whoa. What are you tempering to make this suitable for kids 8, you know, and older? But then I finally did see it, and you know, I was, you know, hooked into that. I love Ray Fiennes. I can't wait to see him again tonight in The Return, where he plays Odysseus, you know, returning to Ithaca. But no, Challengers, absolutely phenomenal. I actually saw that movie. I had a day, I think 2 weeks ago, 3 in a row. I started with Conclave, then saw Nickel Boys, also really good, incredibly depressing. If you want a good time at the movies tonight, don't go see Nickel Boys.
That.
But if you want to, you know, some good...
Conclave has got a great ending. It was such a shocker, and I think it probably really ticked off a lot of conservative Catholics and made me very happy.
I would think so. Listen, I also love a twist.
It's a great twist.
There's 2 twists, and you're like, oh,
there's
what
2
twist
twists,
is good
that's
enough?
right.
I'm twist satisfied.
Yeah. Endings really
do you have time to do any work or no? Do you have time to do work or no?
This is his work.
My life is my work.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. Okay.
You know, by the way, we were going to talk about, speaking of best of, the Spotify came out and said, what a shock that the most listened to stuff is Taylor Swift. That's not amazing to me. You know what's amazing to me?
Tell me.
That her book that just came out a couple of days ago, that is only sold at Target, is the best-selling book in America. Is that amazing, or is that amazing?
Jim, I wonder what the deal is with Taylor Swift and Target, because every time I walk into Target, like, without fail, I don't know how long this has been going on, I always do see just like it seems to be a requirement of each store, the Taylor Swift display.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily, you know, believe any conspiracies that, you know, an industry is pushing an artist on us, but I do find it like so not head scratchy, but what's feeding what? You know, are we so into Taylor Swift culturally that Target's like, yo, here's the display? Or are they just kind of banking on the fact that after you pick up, you know, bath towels and face wash, and on your way to like look at TVs, you're going to pass by Taylor Swift by yet another, you know, version of the vinyl record that's been, you know, put out for the latest album along with the book. I don't know. Also, do either of you listen to Taylor Swift?
Oh yeah, I like Taylor Swift.
I do. I must admit.
I like her.
She had an album out this year. I want to know if you guys liked it or not.
Which one? I don't even know.
Tortured Poets Department. You did.
That was number. You didn't.
Here's the thing, Jim. I don't really talk about Taylor Swift that much. And no, I don't have any...
It's a girl thing, don't you think?
I have no issue with Taylor Swift. I want to make that abundantly clear. But I just like... I would be hard pressed to name 10 Taylor Swift songs.
Well, so would I.
That's like that's my pop culture, I feel, Achilles heel. I just don't know.
The 10-minute one.
Well, if I've listened all too well 10,000 times, can I just list that instead of the other ones, or no?
You could.
I could.
But don't you think? I think this is a girl thing. I think it's
no,
like...
it's not just a girl thing.
I do.
No,
I think it's
not.
more preteen girls, teen girls. They're young mothers and people that have gone through a lot of breakups and gone through a lot of men. They can relate to Taylor and their travails.
I think my biggest pop culture regret, though, of either this year or late last year was that I didn't go see Taylor on the Eras tour. I felt that would have been an incredible thing to just kind of bear witness.
Have you seen the video?
No, I just like don't know where to. Also, there's so much Taylor Swift content. I don't know where I would possibly begin.
Just go buy some deodorant at Target while you're on your way out.
I love the girls and their moms on the train going down to Gillette, and they're all dressed up like Taylor Swift. I mean, people really get into it in a big way. That's like Kiss 108 in the morning. That's what I think that was going on there for all those years. It was the preteen girls and their moms on the way to school listening to those teeny bopper songs.
We're talking to James Bennett II. James, is it inappropriate to talk about 2 films that you haven't seen yet, but that I am wildly interested in? Can we do that, or is that...
Let's do it.
Okay. There are 2 do we call them biopics, or as Marjorie used to call them, biopics? Okay, Maria Callas and Bob Dylan. And I think what's significant but Maria Callas is, what's her name? Angelina Jolie. And Bob Dylan is Chalamet.
Yeah.
And the difference is Timothy Chalamet, he sings in his portrayal of Bob Dylan, correct me if I'm wrong, and Angelina Jolie does not. It's the voice of Maria Callas. Am I right about that?
I believe so.
Okay, so what do you
can't
hear?
expect Angelina Jolie to sing like Maria
And Bob
Callas.
Dylan, by the way, who's sort of odd in his old, well, he was odd in his young age. Bob Dylan, from afar, has been praising this film, and people are talking about Chalamet is going to get an Academy Award, or at least be nominated for this. Let's talk about Dylan first. What do you know about this thing?
Praising from afar is wild, because that praise from afar made it to the New York Times. So
oh,
clearly,
okay.
You know, Timothy himself has woken up and seen this. What I do know about the movie, right, is that my big concern going in, because James Mangold, the director, also did Walk the Line. You know, he has experience in, you know, some 60s-esque kind of drama with, I think he did Ford v Ferrari, and interestingly enough, he also did Logan. And so my big kind of pause with Great Unknown, you know, that's the name of the movie, also from the line from Like a Rolling Stone, was that it was going to be an inclusive, all kind of like an omnipresent, whatever, look at the career of Bob Dylan, which I was so frightened of, because Bob Dylan has so many career phases. I was like, are they gonna, you know, do when he gets into gospel, like in the 80s? But what it does focus on, it is narrowed, and it's supposed to just take a hard look at the Electric Dylan controversy, right? When he, I don't want to say leaves kind of the folk sound behind, but he does kind of embrace
at
the
Newport,
electric
the infamous Newport, or famous Newport.
And so that is the focus, and I think I'm a little bit more keen to see it now that I know it's not. I was born in Minnesota, you know, 19 whatever year, was born 40 something, and now I'm into, you know, electric music and gospel, and then, you know, revival, and I think I'm a little bit more into watching it, but I generally do have like a lot of reservations about music biopics.
I have no reservation. I'm dying to see this thing. And by the way, we're going to play some sound from one of my favorite interviews when I was doing Greater Boston, and we're not clear if this is going to work. And if it doesn't work, our apologies. We're only going to play 30 seconds. Al Cooper, some of you may know. Al Cooper was one of the founders of Blood, Sweat, and Tears a long time ago. Played with Jimmy, played on almost every record from a couple of decades. I think he now lives in Somerville. He was on the show, my show, Greater Boston. It was 8 years ago. And, I'm sorry. And the context for this is maybe the most famous, 15, 20 seconds of any song ever in Like a Rolling Stone, which Rolling Stone magazine on more than one occasion said the greatest song of all time. The organ solo at the beginning is Al Cooper, who was hired not even to play the organ by Bob Dylan for that song. Here's a little bit of my back and forth 8 years ago with Al Cooper about that little segment there.
Do you mind if I fawn over you for a couple of seconds?
So long as I don't get anything on my jacket.
Fine.
The watershed moment was when I played on Like a Rolling Stone.
You sick of talking about that?
Yeah.
Okay, can we talk about it for a minute?
Well,
it was an accident, right? You weren't supposed to be playing the organ to begin with. Is that true?
When you said, can we talk about it for a minute, you didn't let me say no.
Well, I know, it's too late for that.
I've told this story 4 million times.
You're there, now come on. You're there to play the guitar, is that correct?
Please don't do this.
Please don't do this.
And Jim proceeds to do it, of course.
Brilliant talent and brilliant and incredible song. And now here's a little sound from the movie itself, A Complete Unknown with Timothy, as we call him, as Bob Dylan. Here it is.
You tramped all the way from Minnesota. Why is that? I wanted to catch a spark.
If you're traveling in the North Country Fair.
I see no one wants to hear what a kid wrote last month.
Well, I like your songs.
Where the winds hit heavy on the borderline.
Who wrote this?
He did. I'm like in full swoon already, I'll
Well,
tell
it's
you.
because it was kind of our little childhood, Jim.
It's not doing anything for you?
No, I love that song.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, and also I want to point out, too, that the other voice, I think that's Ed Norton.
It is Ed Norton.
Yeah,
It is Ed
Pete,
Norton.
who's playing the role of Pete Seeger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it sounds great.
Okay, Maria Callas. Maria.
Yes.
Angelina Jolie.
Okay. I am excited to see this one.
So
I think
am I.
also had a little bit of a moment. I was like, what is this going to be about? Are we gonna just kind of do the life and times of Maria Callas? And we're not. I think this is gonna look at her in the 70s as she retreats, to France towards the end of her career. This is directed by Pablo Larraín, whose name I hope I'm getting correct with the little acento above the E. But yeah, so Pablo Larraín, I didn't realize this, but it's completing a trilogy. Because when I first found out that his name was attached to Callas, I was like, what is it with Pablo and troubled women? Because if you remember, he's also done,
Marilyn,
Jackie.
Yeah.
And he did Spencer. Did
you do Marilyn too? Am I wrong? Maybe I'm
No.
wrong.
It was. I mean, he just did Jackie and Spencer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jackie, wasn't Maria Callas hanging out with Aristotle Onassis?
That's
That was a
right.
huge part of her life,
And he
right?
dumped her for Jackie
You
O.
wrote Jackie O, right?
And married Jackie O.
It all comes full circle, and also these movies that he's done. I don't know who's doing. Actually, I do know who's doing the score for Maria, but I do not know how to say Peter Ilyini's name. I'm so sorry.
Well, we don't either, so it sounds good to us.
Ilyini, maybe, I think. But anyway, he's doing the score, and the thing about both Jackie and Spencer are that they're also such immersive, sound worlds. Michael Levy did Jackie, and Johnny Greenwood did Spencer, and so I'm really interested to see how the music, for Callas, which is, again features her voice, slots in, to the atmosphere that he creates about these singular portraits of these, icons.
Yeah,
of,
and I think
the 20th
it's
century.
kind of a tragic part where she dies very young, and I think that's how they start.
Please spoil it?
Well, because it's the first scene in the movie.
No.
So I feel if it wasn't spoiling it too much, I think. But 53, that's young.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, but she's supposedly the best soprano of all time, people say.
How do you feel, though? The thing that I'm hung up on is, as I mentioned, Chalamet does Dylan. He sings. I think understandably. I think Dylan is a little easier to perform than Maria Callas. How do you feel that she opens her mouth and it's not her voice coming out of her face? Does that bother you at all or no?
No.
Does it bother you?
No, West Side Story, the first time around, it was Natalie Wood played Maria.
She didn't sing it either.
She didn't sing it either. It didn't bother me at all. I was swooning as a little kid watching that.
Would we be upset if this were a stage production that really tried to be, a creative look at Maria Callas's life?
That's
and
different.
But I don't know. Why try to bait with the facsimile of music that many people know and are already familiar with? I mean,
so why shouldn't Bob Dylan be the voice coming out of Timothy Chalamet's?
That's a really good point, and this is where it might get honestly a little bit hairy, right? I think that most people can sing. Like the overwhelming majority of people can sing. They can carry a tune.
You think so?
Oh yeah, I do think though that when actors go into roles and let's say they bulk up or they lose weight or they pick up a new skill, maybe in challenges learning how to actually play tennis.
That's right.
You can do enough to fake your way through it. Someone could maybe say that Cate Blanchett did a convincing job of conducting in Tar. I'm not one of those people, but it was convincing enough to a lot. I just think that if you were going to cast somebody, especially somebody that's a little bit older, to play a role, vocal cords don't work the same.
Yeah.
How are you going to train somebody to convincingly pass as like a very powerful and iconic soprano in the span of what? I don't know how long production took, but let's just say it took what, maybe a year? I'm just guessing here. But don't just play the music.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, but certainly not opera singing, which is a whole other level, I think. But Bradley Cooper, you just saw that for the first time.
Stars Born, yeah.
Stars Born. He did a pretty good job.
He didn't even know how to play the guitar, nor did he sing until he started doing the film with Lady Gaga.
That is not opera singing.
It's
obviously.
not. I mean, I'm sure everyone in here, if we gave them, maybe a couple hours, we could walk out of here all playing 4 chords.
Do you remember your comment about our good friend Tom Rush? What was your position?
Well, I was just saying.
Jamie remembers
I was just saying, and I am a huge fan of Tom Rush. I've seen him a million times. I love his music. But I just said that singing like folk music to me is not the same as singing an aria from an opera, for which I was roundly criticized. Am I right or am I right?
You're not wrong.
There you go.
That's not much of an endorsement,
there you
my
go.
friend.
But I think that it's not an inherent kind of betterness or superiority, right, to one of those idioms. It just takes a different level of skill. Like, would I say I would want to hear, Maria Callas, like, belt out some Dylan? Not necessarily, because we do get that sometimes. Sometimes we do get somebody that has like a really beautifully trained voice trying to do something that's a bit more, like pop, or, trying to, who may sing in a little bit more of a sacred space, trying to do something that's a bit more vulgar and secular. And it's like, I don't necessarily need or want that.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I love Tom Rush, and he does have a beautiful voice. And
Nice
you know
try,
what?
Marjorie. Too
He's
late.
got a beautiful voice
Does a
well
beautiful
into
voice.
his
80s. I
He
know.
sounds really good, which is not easy.
Are we
Okay.
supposed to, I'm not clear, are we supposed to ask James about the culture show? Are we supposed to talk to James or Edgar later? What are we doing here, Jamie? We're going to
We'll
ask Edgar later. So we don't care what you think about the culture show, James.
Great.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
You have anything else you want to say before you leave?
Everyone should go listen to some music. Go listen to Drop 7 by Little Sims and Samurai by Lupe Fiasco.
That was
Do
on
that
your
today.
list, too. Is that not true?
Oh, yeah.
We didn't get to it, though.
It's okay.
We don't get to a lot of things.
Do we have time to ask James about the Village People real quick?
Oh, yeah, ask him quickly, because
Yeah.
we're going to do it now.
Oh, yeah, let's
The
go.
guy that wrote the Village People has
Quickly.
announced that this has got nothing to do with gay guys at the YMCA.
He is full of it.
And what do we think about that? A lot of us have thought it was kind of a gay anthem. Do you think he's lying or telling the truth?
Okay, so it's Victor Willis, right, who was the lead singer.
it is.
Even like back in the Village People's heyday, he was very open about the fact that he is not gay, which
Right.
like
We know that,
whatever. However, the YMCA, that song, do you know the origin of it?
No.
Okay, so they're referring to the YMCA on 23rd, and so the cowboy, Randy Jones, would
The
go...
naked cowboy?
Not that naked cowboy
Oh.
in time. The cowboy and the Village People.
Oh, okay.
Would go.
There's
with
a naked cowboy in Times Square.
He's
if
in
you
his
go to Times
underpants,
Square.
actually.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
He would go work out at the Y on 23rd, and on at least one occasion he would bring with him Jacques Morali, who was the producer, one of the two producers for the Village People, along with Bololo. And at this YMCA on 23rd, there were a lot of adult male actors that were also working out there, and they all just would hang out and get a good pump in. And that is the inspiration of the song, effectively.
Okay.
Victor Willis had already had his own kind of relationship with the Y, because you could still kind of hang out with all the boys there, and maybe get a room if you needed a place to stay. But it was gay porn models that worked out at the Y.
So you would say he's lying then?
It's just kind of like you can't be that obtuse about this, can you? So
I would think more
On that
suspicious.
note, James, it's great to see you. We'll see you at 2 o'clock.
All right,
Thanks so
see you in
much,
a bit.
James
Hey,
Bennett.
James, thank you very, very much. We've been talking with James Bennett. He is our colleague here at GBH. Whoops, I'm on the wrong page.
You are.
Whoops, I'm on the wrong page still.
Okay, great.
Are you on the right page, Jim?
I'm not telling you who's coming.
Okay,
I'm not doing
on
this.
the right page. I know it's coming up.
Okay,
next.
now it's time for our texting segment coming
Yes.
up. What are we
But
talking
I just
about,
want to say
Margaret?
James from the Culture Show,
Oh,
co-host
yes.
James
You know
Bennett
who he
III.
is.
He's the Culture
Second.
Show's Week in Review kicks off at 2 o'clock, right after us here at the GBH Library. Sorry, I was on the wrong page. The texting answers coming up next show. What people said about the YMCA song that we just asked James about. You're listening to Boston Public Radio at the Boston Public Library.
This week on Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, pottery is one of the hottest hobbies in the country right now. Ceramics artists are selling out their wares, and pottery classes are waitlisting hundreds of potential students. How social media and local ceramic studios are bringing an ancient practice to a new generation. That's Under the Radar with me, Callie Crossley, Sunday night at 6 here on 89.7 GBH and the GBH app.
Support for our programs comes from you. And Babson College, where you can earn a part-time MBA for your full-time life at the school ranked number 2 best college in the U.S. by the Wall Street Journal. Graduate courses offered online or in person with remote options. Babson.edu/part-time. And M. Steinert & Sons, New England's authorized Steinway piano dealer. Their holiday event is happening now through December 31st, featuring Steinway & Sons Boston and Essex pianos. Learn more at msteinert.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio, live from the library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. So Victor Willis is the lead vocalist and allegedly the only straight guy in the 1970s disco supergroup, The Village People. You just heard it. He was the one dressed in the tight-fitting police outfit in the group. A few years ago, he told news outlets he was frustrated with the fact that Trump had essentially made his '78 smash YMCA his campaign anthem. Well, now he's changing his tune. And he wants the world to know the song is not a gay anthem. Come January 2025, Willis writes, listen to this, my wife will start suing each and every news organization that falsely refers to YMCA either in their headlines or alluded to the base of the story that YMCA is somehow a gay anthem because such notion is based solely on the song's lyrics, etc., etc., etc. So we asked you, are you buying it? Are people buying it, Marjorie?
Well, I would say it's a 50-50 split here,
What are they
Jim.
saying?
Anonymous texter says, so does this guy not have ears? Has he never heard his own song? Josh in Winchester says, young man, hang out with all the boys. Okay, sure, not gay, whatever you say, sir. Wink, wink, wink. Another anonymous texter says, like everything else MAGA touches, YMCA, once an icon, is now trash.
Don't you think this is because Willis just became a MAGA guy, which is he's entitled to, but don't you think that's why the change of heart? Yes, I do,
I think
Jen.
that's why there's
Thank
a change
you.
of heart. Here's Edmund in Providence. YMCA is as gay as you can get. The Village People's costumes and personas such as construction worker, police officer, cowboy were meant to evoke fantasies and icons. And anonymous texter says, Trump could never ruin YMCA, the brilliant gay anthem, but I wouldn't mind the Village People making an official statement, sticking it to Trump.
So to speak.
But that's not going to happen.
By the way, speaking of that, play his other song and tell me the not gay anthems. Here's Macho Man. Is it Zoe? The album is called Cruising. I mean, really? I mean, this is actually disheartening. I don't mean to make a big deal out of it. Isn't it a little disheartening after 40 years of this?
Yes.
And by the way, do you know, because of Trump, it's going to upset you more, do you know that YMCA became the #1 song in America recently? It had never been #1 before because of Trump's deal with this thing.
It's on his rally playlist along with Ave Maria, which is kind of a weird choice for a rally playlist. But anyway.
Here's
there
another
it is.
anonymous
Yep.
like, sure, YMCA isn't the gay anthem, and poppers are for acute pain. So there you go.
Okay.
That's the YMCA.
That is all the time we have.
That
After
is.
the 1 o'clock news, we're going to talk and drink a
Eastern Bank. The combined wealth management teams recognize the value of creating relationships to help clients protect their wealth. More at CambridgeTrust.com.
Trusted. Local. News. You're listening to 89.7 WGBH, HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News with NPR. What matters to you?
The popular video app.
The federal appeals court in Washington wrote that TikTok's First Amendment arguments failed since lawmakers view the app as a national security threat. Authorities have said the app is vulnerable to manipulation by the Chinese government because TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, is based in Beijing. The law states that TikTok is set to be banned on January 19th. But the app's future is now uncertain. When Trump assumes office, he may be able to extend the ban date. He can also order the law not to be enforced. Tech experts say it's possible for Trump to cut a deal with China to have TikTok sold off to American investors. Bobby Allen, NPR News.
New details are emerging about the suspect wanted in the shooting death of a United Healthcare executive in New York City this week. Investigators are working to piece together the timeline of the gunman's whereabouts before the shooting. They're also examining security camera footage and have tested a water bottle and a protein bar wrapper for his DNA. President-elect Donald Trump is backing up his nominee to serve as the next Secretary of Defense, despite a number of allegations against him. NPR's Elena Moore reports Pete Hegseth is
able to gain their support. Elena Moore, NPR News, Washington.
Lebanon has shut down its border with Syria after a series of Israeli airstrikes overnight. NPR's Hadil Al-Shalchi reports Israel says it's targeting Hezbollah supply routes in Syria.
Hama has regional significance. The city is a main supply route that Iran uses to move weapons to its Lebanese ally Hezbollah, who's fighting a war with Israel right now. The Israeli military said that it conducted strikes on what they are calling weapon smuggling routes used by Hezbollah at the Syrian-Lebanese border last night.
NPR's Hadil Al-Shalchi reporting. This is NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Boston City Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson is due in court this afternoon to face federal corruption charges. GBH's Tori Bedford has more on a press conference with the officials from the DOJ, the FBI, and IRS. General Motors recalling over 130,000 trucks due to a malfunction.
Enable worldwide companies to unleash the capabilities and experiences of AI. The future of AI is built on ARM. ARM.com. This is NPR.
Here's Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Yeakin. Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Wednesday, we're going to be joined back here at the Boston Public Library by the Mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, who just said the city councilor who's in trouble with the feds should resign.
Shit, look at the image of you on streaming, Marjorie, with the 4 beers. How beautiful is that?
Oh,
is
isn't
that a
that
great
nice?
picture?
Yeah. I'm about to taste all of these 4 beers. I'm very excited about it.
Before I introduce our guests, I want to say one more thing. For those of you who are complaining that we are not doing enough of our old Christmas moldy chestnuts, we're only 30 minutes away from one of our favorites, and we hope yours.
How Roundhead came to be?
Well, I started brewing in the basement of the house 13 years ago. I'm a professional chef, trying to incorporate some Latino influence on the beer, kind of like ingredients, part of the building the recipes. I met Craig by the kids play soccer together, JP, and I shared a couple beers with him, and he's just like, yeah, let's do it. We invited a couple events that we having together, and since then it was like a shock, everything come together, and we just.
So, Craig, what are you drinking on the sidelines of the soccer games, or what?
Never done it.
Does that raise your right hand? That's a weak hand.
Okay. Here's, as a former soccer mom, this is always one of those existential questions as a parent of a kid who plays soccer. When you're chatting with each other or with somebody else, you're not paying attention to the game, and one of your kids scores a goal. Do you lie and say you saw it? Or do you tell the truth to your kid and say, Jesus, honey, I wasn't paying attention?
Right. You saw it. You saw it. You felt the crowd noise. It's part of the game. You're right there on the sideline.
And you don't drink beer on the sideline either. We know
How
what
about
you're
you,
talking
Louis?
about.
Do you say you saw it too?
Yeah.
You got to do it. You got to do it.
You got to say it.
Yeah, you got to say
Louis,
you saw it.
we talk a lot here on the show for years about how hard it is, particularly for minority-owned businesses, to get a start in Boston in terms of capital, people giving a chance. You were the first, which in my opinion makes it even harder. How did you get the financing? I understand the concept, and you had the skills, and you two got along well. How did this all come together as a business?
Well, it was very difficult to get it, navigate all these banks and stuff like that, because nobody invests in someone that's initial, open a business. So it was very difficult. But we have lucky that we found a Boston Impact Initiative that helped us to fund most of the capital that we have in there. So we pitched the idea, and they have excellent team that work with us. And we pitched the idea, and from there we just keeping going, and they help us to build it up.
Yeah.
And how do you know about what? You're the history in terms of the skills and the whatever came from your partner here. What's your deal?
I've been mom and pop small business my whole life.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, and worked at a brewery at a college in Vermont. So that was part of my life, and when I got to a point there, I was excited to be there, being in the candy factory, so to speak, like where magic happens, when people come in the door and they're delighted. And eventually I found myself, through what the company needed, doing sales work. And I lost it. It was just less interesting to me. I was disengaged. I was traveling in my metal box, driving around trying to evangelize the good word of a brewery, and they had great beer, and I just was like, what am I doing? So I left it, and then it was in community, meeting Luis, and having a passion to be in the space and make a small business go in Hyde Park that brought me back in.
Okay, so before we get to more of your story, let's start with these beers. Let's start with the one on the far left. Luis, do you want to describe to us what we're drinking?
This one?
Yeah, this is a Contigo. We call Contigo. It's a Peruvian lager. We call it Peruvian lager because we bring in the water profile from the Andes. We take a sample of the water, we bring it here, and we send it to analyze to see what's the contents of the different minerals in the water. So with that knowledge, we can adjust the Hyde Park water at the same level of the.
That is unbelievable. So wait a second. You brought water from the Andes, you had it analyzed,
Correct.
and then you mimicked the mineral composition of the Andes water, and that's what we're drinking.
That's what it is.
That's different,
fabulous.
though. It tastes very different. What is it that it makes these beers a Latino beer as opposed to like, you know, a old-time American beer?
One is the water components of the Peruvian lager, and the other ones is just like the ingredients that we put it in different beers, like some purple corn on the red ales, or bringing papaya or mangoes to the IPAs, the powerhouse IPAs, stuff like that. That's unique approach to the different.
This is great. By the way, how much do you all like out there when we're drinking beer and you're not? Is that great? Isn't that a fabulous feeling when you come to the show? Tell us about your place.
Yeah, so we're in the old powerhouse building at Westinghouse Plaza. It was the biggest fan factory in the world. 400 folks up in there, powering up, making turbines, little and small, the kind of things that drive air through a vacuum cleaner, or big and making Navy ships whole cool.
Wow.
So the powerhouse has been closed down for, I don't know, a decade plus. Dusty, broken window, boarded up, and long story short, we found this space. And Luis, you went there on your own to check it out. And me remembering you talked to me on the phone, it was like there's light coming through the window with the dust in the air that makes it sparkle. And you got the 35-foot tall ceilings. There's something there, big
35
space.
35 tall.
Yeah.
This is in Hyde Park.
It's in Hyde Park.
Where in Hyde Park?
Westinghouse Plaza.
Okay, so you can see it there.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And
You know, it's the Latino. We talk a lot about the Latino community in Boston, and as I'm sure you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 100% of the population growth over the last 20 years in Boston, literally almost 100%, is the Latino community. Are they supporting your brewery?
We find a bunch of supporting Latinos. They're getting identified with this brewery specific. We surprised when we did a couple events outside of Hyde Park, and we went to East Boston and all these different parks that we go around Boston. We find a lot of people interested and say, oh, wow, this is Latino, kind of like, you know, getting identified with the brewery, and they coming back. And then every day I thought I'm the only Peruvian, me and the consul, the only Peruvian in Boston, but you find every day that we have more Latinos and everywhere.
Do you know Juanma Calderon from Celeste and those other great restaurants?
They're
One of the
great.
most wonderful, speaking of Peruvian chefs, brilliant and wonderful person with his wife, Maria Rondeau, just great restaurants. They're
And isn't
terrific.
that where the name comes from, a Peruvian rooster?
The name is coming, actually, yes. The name
Roundhead?
Roundhead. The initial name was, the original name was Ajiseco. Ajiseco, I thought it's going to be a difficult pronunciation, but Ajiseco means that the rooster is in there, the type of rooster that I grew up with. My uncle is raising those roosters. So I got it in my head all the time. So when I tried to find a name for the brewery, I was like, Ajiseco can be a difficult pronunciation in English. So the same rooster they call here is Roundhead.
Roundhouse.
We can say Roundhead. So, Craig, what's the second beer we're drinking?
Second beer you have there is Quantum Reggae. This is a beer that sour style, and as a brewery, that's what you'll find. You'll find beer, and sometimes people come and they don't know what beer they might like. They might be a wine drinker, and they're approaching from that place. So this is a sour. It drinks tart like a rosé. It gets color from, and this also, like, talk about Latin influence. The tuna is a fruit that Luis is thinking about from the culinary perspective. And what can you find here that has that flavor profile? So dragon fruit is what's giving it that color and also giving it a little bit of flavor.
It's terrific. You know, but before we went on the air, I said to you what Marjorie said on the air is how beautiful these four
Colors
beers are.
yeah.
And I said, that matters to me. I said, does it matter? And what was your answer?
Yeah, it matters. All things matter. The smell, the look, what glass it's in. You know, these are the senses. And we're trying to show hospitality and have it appeal to all the above.
You know, we have part of what we do here, Luis and Craig, is we criticize the legislature, which we're not going to do today, because one of the things we criticized was their economic development bill, not the contents, well, some of the content, not the content so much, though, but rather that they did it pretty much behind closed doors, not a lot of transparency. We just learned this morning that there's a measure in this economic development bill that passed maybe, 2 weeks ago, that allows craft beer to be sold at farmers markets, which to me seems which it wasn't allowed to be before. Is that not a huge potential audience for you? That's a big deal, no?
Absolutely. They create a different connection for us. in between the small producers that are in markets, small markets. So I found out this is a great fit for us, how we can promote the beer as well, how we can promote the culture, and get us together with a bunch of people they selling the products.
Okay, let's drink some. Oh, you say who they are.
We're talking to Roundhead Brewery co-owners, the first Latino-owned brewery. It's in Hyde Park with Luis Espinoza and Craig Panzer. Their website is roundheadbrewing.com. You know, Jim mentioned the whole thing about being able to sell at the farmers markets, but we have been reading a lot of bad stuff in the paper about the whole brewing business is coming upon hard times. Is that because there's too many, or they're not good enough, or what's going on there?
Yeah. It's small business, right? And it's not easy. Every day is being about innovation, how you stay fresh. I think thinking about the beer world in particular, distribution is a thing, right? The idea that I make my beer and then I sign with the distributor, or I deliver it myself out to stores so that you can go to your local retailer, open the fridge, and based on all the overwhelming number of labels in that cooler, you can pick one out, right? We didn't want to be that. We wanted to have a relationship that was with people in the door, direct. Our mission at Roundhead, Cerveza que une, beer that brings people together. So at our mission is you come and be with one another. Beer is a starting place to sit at the table and enjoy time together. So our model being direct to consumer, being about bringing to space, that's made us different from, I think, a lot of the industry is struggling with the wholesale side of business, having to operate at tighter margins, having to compete when the relationship is about your label on shelf. So we're blessed to have approached at a point in time when people were, just after the pandemic, coming back together in person. And then we can build a relationship where people tell stories about their experience at Roundhead.
Taproom's a huge part of your success, is it?
Absolutely.
Are you making money? Are you guys doing well?
It's taproom of the beer being the best, and then also the food.
Yeah.
What do you have?
For food, we have pizzas that is inspired in Latino culture. I think the pizzas is a white canvas that you can draw whatever you think that's going to work. In this case, we try to bring all the culture, Peruvian culture in there, in the pizzas, kind of like, carne asada pizza.
I could do that.
You know, pork belly with the onions and huancaína sauce, which is the sauce of Peruvian sauce, or different things like, you know, we inspire in the pretty much in the Peruvian culture.
Okay, well, you're the chef, Luis, but I read something which I found hard to believe, but you can tell me that I'm wrong to doubt it. The idea that it's better to be fermenting the beers with reggae music in the background.
Wait a second. He's the one that said it to a reporter.
I know.
That the yeast moves along with the music?
I don't get it. How does reggae music make the yeast move?
Yeah, actually, we're talking about specific quantum reggae. So I find out reading the articles in California, they plugging music to the grapes to grow it more healthy. So
they do?
They do. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So how about I plug some speakers next to the fermenter and see what happens. And for a surprise, the process accelerate. You know, it's getting more fast in the fermentation. Instead to take me like 7 to 10 days, it took me like 6 to 8 days. It was like, is something good in there? So I like to investigate a little more, get more research in this. So I did another batch, but it's separated in 3 different stages. Heavy metal, classical.
That's not. Is this true?
This is true.
And what happened? And what happened?
So all these 3 different beers, slightly different flavor. And I was giving my guests, my friends, my family. And
wait, all the same ingredients, just different music?
Just different music.
Isn't that wild?
That is incredible.
Well, we talk to people who think, you know, living plants have feelings, so maybe plants are into reggae music. I don't know.
Okay,
yeast is into reggae music. Okay, let's do a
what's
third one.
What's the third one we're drinking?
Oh, the third one is the Bold Trip. Mm-hmm. This is a triple dry hopping. We're using New Zealand hops for this.
This is strong.
It's not really strong. It's triple times. So
what does that mean?
3 times more hops than
okay.
This
so
is delicious.
It is.
It's an IPA, and yeah.
But you know, why does this taste, especially this second one, it doesn't taste like, it tastes like beer, but not really like beer. As you said, Craig, it's almost like more of a wine kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So part of its process, right? The sour style has a souring method where there's a stage where prior to fermentation, you're souring it, giving it that flavor. And so it's the process that comes together of culture and how that process came to be, a discovery that, hey, if we do this with that, look at what we get. Let's call it a sour because this process delights. And so now when you go around, you're looking at genres, you're like, the sour, that's the thing I remember. I can look for one of those and I will like that. I like that genre. So the sour style, if that's your thing, to remember.
This is delicious.
Can we get back to the customer base for a second? We talk a good game on the show about supporting local businesses, and then we go home and order something from Amazon. I mean, it's humiliating and it's hypocritical and horrible. Do people put their money where their mouths are? Is there, like, in your community, I don't just mean geographic community, but the larger, is there a commitment to helping you succeed?
The best way I can think of that is that, so one thing about Roundhead that's unique, we don't take tips. We have a fair wage fee, so all of our team members make a base wage of $22.56.
That's fabulous.
And so then we use the fair wage fee of 20% to get back against that high labor cost. So people, we rarely, except for on Yelp, of all things, that platform in particular, we rarely ever see any negative feedback. It's like, thank you for doing that. That's what we get. Thank you for doing that. This past month, because we don't take tips, we're trying to find a better way to, people want to put cash down. They're like, I understand the fair wage thing, but I have this itch. This is what I do. And so there's cash that wants to have a donation bin. And also a pop-up on the POS, pay by credit card. If you want to give on top, you know there's 20%, you want to give on top. And so we, this past month, for a High Park American Legion Post 78, if you wanted to, here you go. And they had a fundraising goal of $1,000. They would bring money in for renovations to their social hall. We did it. In our first opening month, brought in like over $1,000 to support that. So that to me says that people are into it and people want to support.
Do your employees stay? Or is there a return on your commitment to them, Craig?
Yeah, there is. And we're into 2 years now. And I want to see Roundhead have more proof of, let's be 5 years. So we can say, yo, this works. Because we just saw a measure where we tried to get rid of tipped wage. As a state, it was a question, people want this. And the state said no. People said, no, not right now. But we'd love to be an example that this can work. And if it works, it comes down to our team telling you that, not us.
Yeah.
We can recite what they tell us, but under the day, we do this for the people who work there.
Okay, Luis, what's the fourth beer we're drinking here?
We have the Guerrero. It's a dark lager.
Cans are pretty too, by the way.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
Thank you. Guerrero is a dark lager. We lagering for a month and a half in the tanks, and the coffee flavor and some roasted
there is a
grains
coffee
in there.
flavor, yeah.
Chocolate malt, something that brings all the rum beer together.
Yeah.
So, how do you two get along? I mean, I know your friend. I know this whole story, the soccer thing, and you're good friends. Working together is different from standing on the sidelines of a soccer game, rooting on your kids. Tell the truth.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with you. You're the truth teller here, right?
Here we go.
So, how do you two get along 2 years in?
It's like a marriage, right? Like it takes work. It takes commitment. It takes surprises and us doing better of when we ouch, you know? Because when you go into a new business, roles are less defined. We're all just like rolling our sleeves up trying to get stuff done. I always remember like this 7-foot, keg washer that got arrived from International. We're looking at the thing like, how does this work? There's no instruction manual. There's no instruction manual to how you set up shop, right? We're just figuring it out. And so there's plenty of times when I've ouched Luis and I have to learn and listen, like what did I do? And like help me see what I did, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to hurt you. So that's the real, I think, of being in partnership. In business partnership, it's the same thing.
It's pretty impressive, I should say.
Which one is this again?
That's a boat trip.
Boat trip. Okay, boat trip. That's my favorite.
What's that box? Is this like a Christmas deal you're urging people? What is the box?
Well, you know, we thought we'd have a presentation for you. We have these gift packs at Roundhead, and it recreates the sort of like Contigo Fest tasting experience. So you'd be able to get your beers,
look at that.
glasses,
What's that
and
stuff?
things.
What's the top stuff in the top?
So these are
Hold
the
it up
tasting
a
glasses.
little bit for the camera.
Yeah, tasting
the
glasses and
it's
beers. So
great.
that, you know, what we do at Roundhead, you all are sampling on our flights. Those are actually whittled by Luis's dad. So there's always a story behind what we do. And so at the brewery, you come in, order a flight. This is for you to do it at home.
By the way, it's really a shame you didn't bring one of those for Marjorie. So they can go to your tap room. They can go to your website, find out when it's open, which is roundheadbrewing.com. Where else can we buy this stuff, Luis?
Well, we have a handful of special locations that we try to put it in there.
Is that on your website?
It is in the website. No, it's not on the website, but we probably want to add it in there. We have a city fee in JP. We have a couple more liquor stores in JP, but we try to minimize in terms of distribution.
So come to the place.
Come to the place.
What hours are you open over there? When are you open?
We open Wednesday through Sunday.
Yeah. I would say that, like, if you are, right now we're talking about, like, if you're a restaurant out there that wants to do something special, we're the smallest brewery in Boston. We can do special things that are small batch. So that's one of our most recent conversations. But we want there to be a relationship involved in why we're doing this.
Yeah.
By the way, the beer is fabulous, which is the most important thing. And you seem like really decent guys, which is pretty important too. And what you're doing is great. And as I said, we talk a good game. If you really care about local businesses, care about the first Latino-owned brewery in Boston, check it out, roundheadbrewing.com.
See the text from the guy from Peru who's saying how excited he is to hear about this person is from Peru, and hearing this story is very inspiring. I don't hear much about Peruvians in Boston. Glad to hear it. So
well, the next one, by the way, is from one of our colleagues talking about what a lightweight I am.
Yeah.
I say this is strong, and Luis says, no, it's not. So, I mean, that sort of tells you all you need to know. Gentlemen, the beer is great.
Yes,
lots of luck with your work. We really
with
appreciate
everything
it.
down there in Hyde Park. Thank you so much for
Check them
coming
out,
in.
roundheadbrewing.com.
We have been speaking with the co-owners of Roundhead Brewery. It's Massachusetts' first Latino-owned brewery. It's in Hyde Park. Luis Espinoza and Craig Panzer. You can learn more about their place at roundheadbrewing.com. That's roundheadbrewing.com. Thank you very,
Good
very
luck,
much
gentlemen.
for
We
coming
really
in.
appreciate your time. Thanks so
After
much.
a quick break, another very moldly BPR chestnut, because Jim
Don't
really
disparage
Jim
this,
really
Marjorie.
loves
It's fun.
mold. Jim really likes mold. That's why we're doing this. It's a Christmas tree potpourri. We're going to open the phone and text lines. Real versus fake. Fraser versus Balsam.
Your
You're
attitude
buying now,
stinks, by the
or
way.
you're
Come
buying
on.
later.
You want to do this as much as I do. You know you do.
You're listening to Boston Public Radio, your moldy chestnut center for moldy chestnuts. You're listening to 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It's been almost 30 years since actors Ralph Fiennes and Juliette Binoche shared the screen. Their new film, The Return, based on the Odyssey, is all about reunion.
When this project brought us together, I think we both recognized that it felt inevitable.
A joy. I'm Elsie Chang. An epic poem and an epic reunion hit the big screen on All Things Considered from NPR News.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Regal Music Theater of Greater Boston, presenting the 40th anniversary production of Christmas Time, a Waltham holiday tradition featuring a living nativity, precision dancers, Victorian carolers, and more. Tickets at regalmusictheater.org. And the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer, the Unclaimed Property Division, is holding unclaimed funds from medical bills, uncashed paychecks, savings accounts, and more. To see if you have unclaimed money, you can visit findmassmoney.gov.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marge Regan and Jim Browder. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Wednesday again next week, Ask the Mayor with Michelle Wu. Marjorie and I have something like, we count like 8 shows left together before we bid adieu for our holiday break.
Adieu.
Adieu. I said adieu.
Adieu.
Adieu. Christmas is 19. Let's not start getting texts on adieu. Let's move on. Christmas is 19 days.
Say it one more time.
I'm not going to say it. Adieu. That's it. We're moving on.
Adieu.
Christmas is 19 days away, and then we will really say adieu. So we'd figure we'd open the floodgates to you all on the BPR annual Christmas tree chestnuts. This is just the first of many. As you know, our number is 877-301-8970. Are you a real tree or a fake tree household, and why? When you go buy listen to her, your real tree, when do you put it up? When do you throw it to the curb? If you buy a new tree every year, do you go with balsam or Fraser fir?
Yeah.
What's the difference? And if you're a fake tree person, which I have no time for, what tips do you have to get rid of that musty, moldy smell from storing it all year in your humid basement? The number is 877-301-8970. Fake or real, balsam or Fraser fir?
Now, I have 2 things to say.
No, you're going to disparage this. I know you are.
Adieu is most famous for now? As the first word in Wordle.
I know that. A lot of people
do
use
that
that.
because it's got the A, the I, the E, and
you know what
the
a
U.
lot of people use instead of adieu?
Cheers.
Hygge. They use hygge. Not doing that, but I knew you'd laugh if I did it, so go ahead.
And to get us in the spirit of the moldy chestnuts that we do over and over and over again.
Once a year.
Here's Mike in North Carolina.
What did he say?
Who's got our number, Jim. Mike says, I prefer real Christmas trees with white lights powered by the Eton emergency crank radio. I'm also in favor of the 4-day work week, daylight saving time. I'm against regifting and think we need a replacement for the MCAS. I'm looking forward to sitting by my fire in my terry cloth robe, slippers, and Christmas dickie, as every high school boy in the 60s and 70s knows. If you wear the dickie, they can't see the hickey.
Okay, I think you got us nailed there, Mike in North Carolina. Our number is 877-301-8970. I have to be honest here because I want to be honest with the audience. I have contempt for people who have artificial trees. I don't get it. The beauty of the real smell. And by the way, you can spray an artificial tree with a smell that's supposed to be like one of these. It just doesn't do the trick. Get a fresh one. By the way, the fresh ones are better for the environment, from what I understand, too, because you cut them down and new ones grow in their place. Isn't that true, brother? Am I right about that?
What'd you say?
Whatever.
I was reading the text.
That's fine. Read the text. 877-301-8970. So declare your position. Fake or real, Marjorie?
I've always done the real. However, the environmentalists say that if you keep your fake tree for 6 years or more, then the environmental impact evens out.
Yeah, if you keep any aluminum in the basement, it evens out.
But then somebody else says it's made of this horrible plastic, which is, carcinogenic and really terrible. That's the fake Christmas tree.
Do you see the percentage of Americans who have an artificial tree? It's stunning. 78%.
Yeah.
How many people in the audience have a fake tree? It's not artificial, fake. Are you ashamed of yourselves or not?
They're not raising their hands.
Oh, they're shaking. No. How many have a real tree? Those are my peeps. I'll tell you. Thank you very much.
Also, I'm not sure about these statistics. I'm suspicious.
What are
they? It says 99% of Americans plan to display at least one Christmas tree in 2024. 99%.
What do you mean? How about the Jews?
Of Jews or Muslims
I'm Jewish.
or
I have
Buddhists
a Christmas tree.
Or Hindu people.
Do you know who did the poll? Who did the poll? Did you read who did the poll?
The American Christmas tree.
Exactly. What a shock. 99% of people have Christmas trees.
Yeah. Okay. 877-301-8970. Pat in Concord, you are first on the Christmas tree hour.
Hello there, Pat.
Well, I don't like wasting things, and so I have a 14-foot kumquat tree in my family room.
Oh.
Where I used to have a Christmas tree, but it's a 14-foot kumquat tree, and it's a very incredible height, but it's also wide.
Yeah.
And it has I don't know if anybody knows about kumquats, but they have a spire on all of their, like a little long dagger on all of their branches, and it's great for hanging lights and ornaments.
Wait, you have a real kumquat tree that produces kumquats in the house?
Well, unfortunately, its days of kumquat producing have been over.
Oh, that's very sad.
Because it's been inside for a long time.
But it's a real tree that grows in your house?
Oh yeah, no, it's great. It looks great. It's I don't have to put up the fake one, and I don't have to buy. I can't. 14-foot tree was a lot for me to try to get in my house. So I love my kumquat tree.
By the way, Jamie and Aiden are saying, how sad was it when you had to bid adieu to the kumquats? Was that a very sad experience for you?
Not sad at all.
It wasn't sad, okay. Kumquat, thank you. Adieu.
Well, kumquats, usually, if they're still alive in the tree, they would be kind of like these orange round things, or sort of round things.
That's called a kumquat.
Yeah, it's called a kumquat. Well, I don't know, maybe people didn't know about that. But I can see where the tree would be beautiful, because the bush is beautiful.
Okay, great. Now, Pat,
it's a beautiful tree, yeah.
That was a beautiful story, and you told it beautifully, and I love, can you imagine having a live tree like growing in your house?
Some people
Pat,
suggest that if you want to be totally environmentally correct, you don't buy either the artificial or the real tree. What you do is you decorate one of your big plants, or like the caller said, a big tree in your house.
Well, as you know,
That's what you do.
I grow trees in my backyard.
Yeah, we know that.
And I chop them down and bring them in, and then I grow another one.
The balsam versus Fraser fir. Now, I always heard that Fraser fir lasts longer, so that you'll have delay the needles falling off the tree. But I also learned from people over at actually Mahoney's, it's near GBH, that the balsams will last just as long. They smell much better if they are quality balsams.
But they're too tight. You can't fit a ball in a bowl. Isn't the balsam the really tight Tight one, by the way.
I didn't notice it was tight.
The Fraser is the one where you have space to hang the
that's
ornament
right. It doesn't
thing.
smell very good.
By the way, forget
Boston
Mahoney's.
smells really
We
well.
love Mahoney's. Boston Christmas Tree.
That's your friend.
Run by a wonderful friend of mine, Chris Gregory, who's been doing it for like 400 years.
Okay.
In Allston on Harvard Street, where Harvard Street begins.
You don't have to diss Mahoney's.
They're fabulous. I love Mahoney's, but buy your Christmas tree at Boston Christmas Tree.
You just diss Mahoney's.
Okay, fine. I didn't mean to diss it. 877-30. I'm not saying adieu to Mahoney's. Thank you. I'm just saying hello to Boston Christmas Tree. Chris in North Andover, fake or real for you, my friend?
Real for the last 2 years, but I really miss the old plastic.
So why is that? Why did you switch, and why do you miss it?
So the lights broke, and instead of trying to fix it, just got rid of it and went to, real. But it's a pain to bend down and water it and pick up all the needles, and the smell, it doesn't last as long as they tell you it will. So I would really like a container that grows to 8-10 feet max, and you can just wheel it in and wheel it out.
Chris, you sound really depressed about the live tree thing. Are you, or are you?
Not depressed, just annoyed.
Annoyed. Okay. Well, that came across. Chris from North Andover, thank you. Sandra, our coworker, actually texted in, apparently. Capital letters, Douglas fir. After Christmas, can you believe this? I cut stems and make home cleaner that lasts a whole year. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. That's pretty impressive.
Wow.
I don't even know what a Douglas fir is.
We're all supposed to be recycling our Christmas trees, although I don't know how many people actually do. They claim sometimes that they're picking them up to be recycled. But
Aren't you supposed to have a goat eat it or something? You take it to a goat?
Goats love it. That's
the
true.
Goat. You find a goat. How do you find a goat to eat it?
You go to a goat farm and you leave your tree there. I don't know. We look it up online, Jim.
Okay. 877-301-8970 is the number.
Jackie from Seekonk is weighing in on this moldy chestnut.
It's not. Don't disparage it. It's not a moldy chestnut. It's a topic we do every year.
Of course, the tree gets moldy.
Hi, Jackie.
Too.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I think we're good. We're really good. Hello.
It's real tree all the time.
Love it.
Gotta be.
Why?
We've had a 12-foot tree the last several years.
Mm-hmm.
And then this year we had to get only a 7-foot tree because it was just, for the first time in 27 years, me and my husband putting it up. Kids are all gone.
Oh.
Yeah, that's one of the tough things on Christmas. You can't have everybody around the tree putting on the decorations. Now, Jackie, do you go balsam, Fraser fir, or Douglas fir?
I go whatever I like best, how it looks.
Okay.
I like your attitude.
Yep.
I like it.
So this year, I call it a Dr. Seuss tree.
Mm-hmm.
It's got branches all over the place and lots of spaces where you can kind of tuck the ornaments in. It's really cool looking tree this year.
Jackie, really, you have a wonderful attitude. 7 feet is still real, by the way. I mean, that's a
good
real
size.
deal.
Yeah, that's a good size.
Even though 12 is better. So thank you, Jackie, for your contribution. By the way, our colleagues are saying, didn't we have a goat? We had a goat in the studio, right? So we could have fed the Christmas tree to the goat.
That's right.
When it was in the studio.
Do you have a light on top of your star on top of your Christmas tree?
What, is this like a...
No, because I figured out this is one of the dilemmas. If you have a star across your Christmas tree,
Yeah, what about
they have
it?
a curlicue thing that connects the curlicues to the top branch of the tree, but oftentimes the top branch is too thin for the curlicue, and then your light is tilted.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any ideas about how you detilt the star on top of your tree, I would really be interested
By the
in
way,
that.
if you want to have some fun on a Friday night, there are a lot of great TikTok videos about cats jumping up on trees and knocking them over. It's about as fun. Speaking of great videos, here's a clip from the 1989 movie National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, where the family goes on a delightful trip to get a real Christmas tree.
Dad, didn't they invent Christmas tree lots so people wouldn't have to drive all the way out to nowhere and waste a whole Saturday?
They invented them, Russ, because people forgot how to have a fun, old-fashioned family Christmas and are satisfied with scrawny, dead, overpriced trees that have no special meaning.
My toes are numb. I can't feel my leg. Mom, I can't feel my hips. Clark.
Yes, honey?
Audrey's frozen from the waist down.
That's all part of the experience, honey.
Remember
That's
that?
Chevy Chase, right? Is
Yeah,
that
Chevy Chase. Remember that picture of Audrey? Audrey's like, she looks like an
That's
ice
great.
cube. That movie is hysterical. I watch it
Do you
every
ever have a
single
fake
solitary
tree
year.
ever?
No.
That's great.
Did
I'm
you?
really proud of you. No, I don't do that kind of thing.
Not yet.
No, what do you mean not yet?
Well, I mean, you never know. Some people get fake trees when they're older and they don't want
They
to be
do?
bothered. Yeah, having to get the tree in the right
Never.
position. You know, it's very difficult often to get the tree standing up straight, and there's a lot of marital strife over that issue. Jim.
John, well, you wrote one of your great columns where there had to be like 6 million comments. Is when you discovered
It's a long time ago.
the foot adjustable Christmas tree
swivel
stand,
swivel
where
stand.
you pumped it with your toes.
Yeah, you pumped it with your toes.
And you got it to be.
And the tree would go leaning left, leaning right. Then you could get it right in the middle of the swivel stand. Yeah.
It costs like $100, now. Do you know that?
You're supposed to save
Really
it from
expensive.
year to year.
By the way, John in Beverly asks a question that I would like to answer. He says, Jim, do you wear a dickie when harvesting a Christmas tree? Actually, I do. I have a little dickie with a little mistletoe on it, which is quite fetching. Thanks for the question, John. I really appreciate it.
Ben and Peabody wants to know, Jim, real Hanukkah menorah with candles or fake with screw-in lights? Which do you prefer?
I don't want to get into that, actually, if you don't mind. But I'm into the. By the way, when I was a little boy.
I know why.
Why?
You don't have a menorah.
Maybe. Maybe I don't. Maybe I do. That's really not anybody's business, Marjorie,
Okay,
is it?
listen to this.
What?
My girlfriend and I have a Lego Christmas tree we build every year.
God, that
it's
is
kind of a
pathetic.
fun new tradition, but of
What's
course,
the fun part?
building the tree, but it's not very large, obviously. Okay.
Here is anonymous. I have been begging for a fake tree for 20 years. So far, I'm 0 and for 20 with my wife. The needles make me want to move out and get a fake tree. You know, a fake tree wife. He wrote. I didn't say that. He wrote that. You know, I don't understand the needle thing. It happens one time, and you vacuum the floor, and the needles are gone. Why do people have their undies in a bundle
I don't
over
know.
the needles?
Well, Fraser Fir supposedly don't have as many
How great is the smell when you walk in your house and you have a real? How great is that smell? It's
The
like
balsam.
bacon bread kind of thing.
But it's the balsams that smell
It
like
is?
that. The Fraser Firs don't smell like that. No.
Okay, fine.
That's why some people prefer the balsams, or they get that fake spray that
I
they
hate
don't
that.
like,
I don't
and
like
they
that.
spray it onto the Fraser Fir. Now, one of the texters says a Charlie Brown tree. Give it love and appreciation. It's small and unwanted. You know that little pathetic little tree in the Charlie
do,
Brown
I know.
Christmas, and they actually sell those in the store. Our friend Sheila gave me one of those for Christmas.
Do you ever have a tabletop tree?
I've not had a tabletop tree. Have you, Jim?
Well, if you're going on vacation for Christmas, I as long as it's real, I support the tabletop tree. If you're only going to be home for a day or two or that sort of thing. Okay, really?
Let's go to Kathy in Arlington.
Hey,
Hi,
Kathy, welcome. Nice to see you.
Hi, I have an unusual solution here.
Oh, please.
Several years ago, I was at a home store and bought a little $29 Norfolk Island pine tree that was 2 or 3 feet tall. And I've just kept it in my window and repotted it every couple of years. And it's now 8 feet tall and 4 feet wide. And I move it into the living room every Christmas.
That's
Oh,
a pretty
my
beautiful
God.
story. That's
Wait
great.
a minute. So you bought this years ago, and it's just grown and grown and grown.
It's so huge that it doesn't get any taller because there's no sun up anymore. It's getting wider every year now.
That's a pretty great
That
story.
is great.
I hope you have pictures every year. Kathy, thank you very much for the call. We appreciate it. Can you explain this sound here? What is that from? What is this thing? Can somebody tell me?
Is what you probably hear people say when they get their Christmas tree. It's from a YouTube video posted 17 years ago
wanna play
in a 2006 movie entitled The Christmas Tree.
So let's play it.
Come over, we're going to get the tree. Yeah, come over now. Hurry up. We're going to get the tree, come on. Come over, we just got the tree. We just got the tree, it's gorgeous. Yeah, come on, you gotta see it. We just got the tree. Yeah, we're gonna decorate the tree, come over. Make it nice around the tree. Come on, make it even, make it nice. Why isn't the tree on? Come on, turn on the tree, please, for me. Turn on the tree. Hey, come on, everyone, we're gonna take a picture by the tree. Everyone get in the den, come on.
Now I know I never heard that before. 877-301-8970. Megan, you are in Dayton, Ohio. You're on Boston Public Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
I have 2 points, and I
Please.
hope I get to say them both.
Yeah.
One is that it's kind of a point of privilege to go get a tree every year. I was given the choice as a kid, do we get a fresh tree or do we spend that money on presents?
Okay.
And then the second point is that growing up in western Kansas in the High Plains, in school we had tumbleweeds for trees, which of course we all thought was so dumb to begin with. And then that whole Christmas magic thing took over, because once you have it decorated with ornaments that you made and you poured your soul into, it's actually beautiful.
Well, that's a pretty good story, by the way. That is a really good story.
Tumbleweed trees.
Tumbleweed tree. Megan, thank you very much for the call. We appreciate
Thank you. I love it. Bye.
it. Thank you.
Kathy in Maine says, we cut down our first live tree this year. It was lovely until we got home. My husband had sap all over his hands and had to use paint thinner to remove the sap, eliminating the lovely pines.
You ever cut down trees? And
No,
a
I have
serious
not.
thing, by the way.
I've gone to a tree farm where somebody else cut it down.
Yeah, I tried cutting down a tree. That's the true story. I couldn't do it.
Chevy Chase
So they had
cuts
to come
down
help,
a tree in
yeah.
that very funny movie.
He does? I can't
yes,
remember that.
and remember at some point the tree goes right through the window of the house, tips over. Oh my God,
I
I've
love
watched
your
that movie
sense of
like
humor.
a million times.
Doesn't the tree tips over there too, right? I love that. Kelly and Melrose, you're on Boston Public Radio. We're talking fake versus real deal. Hi, Kelly. Welcome.
Hey, so Jim, I need you to calm down and take a breath. You're making me feel bah humbug about Christmas.
Why, you have a fake tree?
We have a fake tree, and we have it for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
The main reason is we travel during the actual Christmas week.
Yeah.
So we have nobody to water it or take care of it.
Yeah.
But we've had it for 20 years, and we love it. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to reiterate what the previous caller said about it kind of being a privilege. Trees are really expensive.
Yeah.
Balsams are cheaper. You can
Yeah.
get a pretty small. You can get a balsam for
Sort of like a buzzkill kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, the reality, we understand not everybody can afford a tree, and we wish everybody could. But within that context, I am a live tree person. But Kelly, thank you for your perspective, and thank you for your contribution.
The Fraser firs are more this year than the balsams.
They are?
Yeah.
They're right. I mean, those two callers are right. They're not cheap. But you know what you do? You buy a little tiny tree. You know why? Because it's live, and live in your house casts a nice feeling into your whole Christmas
That's right.
experience.
As I've said a million times now, the balsam really smells good. Al in Marblehead, what do you
You know
think?
what a lot of before you go ahead, Al, do you know that a lot of what?
He says I should wire a chopstick to the top of the tree to make it easier to put the star up.
Jackie from Seekonk.
Jackie
yeah.
from Seekonk. How do you wire a chopstick to the top of the tree?
Jackie, could you come to Brookline later this weekend and see if you can help?
But you might need a couple of chopsticks to make it really fat.
Yeah, I think you could probably pull that off.
Yeah, but what is that? I mean, that is a really weird thing.
Yeah.
It has the curlicue thing is too wide
you
for the
explained that very
branch.
well. Thank you. Let's go to Al in Marblehead. You're next on Boston Public Radio. Hi there, Al. How are you?
Hi. I'm on for real. I just want to relate the story of the stages of going through Christmases with real trees and children and cats.
Oh, yeah.
We were a young family.
Yeah.
We had 3 daughters, and we would go up after Thanksgiving and cut down a tree up in Newburyport area where there's a number of tree farms.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I remember
Hey, Al, the connection is horrible. We're going to
connection.
put you on hold. Don't go away. We'll take one other call, and then we'll get back to you in the hopes that it gets back. I told you this story a bunch of years ago. We were babysitting our tenant's dog during Christmas, and we took the dog to a friend's house for Christmas. Tell you what the dog did. Walked in the house, went right over the Christmas tree, and peed all over it. Which, it's amazing they don't do that more, because that's what they do to trees.
And cats will often, if you put tinsel on your tree, the cats will be pulling the tinsel off the tree and causing them.
I like that look.
I from West
Oh, we
Bridgewater
lost that
says,
caller. I'm
They'll
sorry.
be haunted forever by the image of Jim harvesting a tree with mistletoe tied around his little dicky.
Did you see the story the other day in either the Wall Street Journal or some business paper about how tons of offices are banning mistletoe because of all the sexual harassment and stuff that's going on in the
Benny
the
in
offices?
Brookline, he says he has a 10-foot ceiling, but he always buys a 14-foot Douglas fir, and it looks great. The only problem is his upstairs neighbor sometimes complains about the hole in the floor.
And both of us are laughing, Benny. That's how pathetic the two of us are. Al in Marblehead. Oh, we tried you. Let's try him one more time, see if it's any better. Al, what do you say?
Okay, is this any better?
It is better. Take it away.
Okay, then just to relate the story of the stages of Christmas, we went for a real tree, and I've got 3 daughters, and we used to make a trip after Thanksgiving up to a tree farm up in Newburyport to cut down a tree and make a day of it. It was a big deal, and in those days, it's a while ago, in those days, in Earth Point 1, we used to have snow just after Thanksgiving.
I remember
this area.
snow. Yeah.
And we'd go for hot chocolate afterwards, and we'd come back and put the tree in a bucket of water, and then put the tree up. And it was usually a big tree. We had a great room, and we had to tie the tree up because our Siamese cat would like to climb the tree all the time. So that was an event. And but the kids are gone now, and we've reverted to a Charlie Brown tree. We like a real tree, but we go to the local tree farm and we get the most unloved tree and make it our own.
Yeah,
and that's sort of our Christmas.
I love your story of your Christmas and tradition and the hot chocolate and the whole. I like the whole deal, Al. Thanks, enjoy it. Jay from Attleboro says he has given up on real trees and instead has decorated RFK Jr.'s dead animal collection from Central Park. That would be actually quite nice, too. Did you tell me he didn't kill the whale? He didn't behead the whale?
There was an investigation that it turns out that the story about him beheading the whale and putting it on the top of his car and it was dripping into the car that his daughter Kathleen apparently told was Kiki was not really a true name for her aunt there, the one that died in the plane crash, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Linda and Lowell, you're next on Boston Public Radio. You're doing the real versus fake thing.
Well, we have a fake now because our daughter's allergic to real.
Oh, well, that's a good excuse. Go ahead.
Yeah. We always did have a real, and you talked about how lovely they smell.
Yeah.
Well, one year we went out for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
We came back, and instead of the house smelling beautiful, it smelled awful.
Oh.
And we couldn't figure it out. We thought that maybe food had gone bad. We cleaned out the fridge, whatever. We couldn't figure it out. Well, a few days later, we took down the tree, we tipped it over to take it out of the house, and a petrified frog fell out.
Oh my God.
So there had been a frog living in the tree and then passed away over the holidays.
By the way, I had totally forgotten that. One year we got a live Christmas tree and we had a live something. I can't remember what it was. It could have been a tiny bird or something in the tree.
Did it die?
No, it didn't die, actually. That's an incredible story. Linda, thank you very much for making the call.
This person wraps their fake tree with plastic wrap with the ornaments on it after Christmas. Wow.
How exciting is, I mean, really? I mean, is that, what is
Somebody
fun
else says,
about that?
we have an artificial tree. It's 55 years old and now is part of the family folklore. How could we possibly get rid of it?
What kind of condition do you think a 55-year-old fake tree is?
Well,
Marjorie?
I don't know. It might be a little rough around the edges, but they're attached to it, Jim.
Here's an interesting question. An anonymous texter comes up with it, which we should have thought of. Real or fake, would you rather listen to Marjorie and Jim live or a rebroadcast? That's an existential kind of question. Thank you.
Somebody says the stars stay up really well on fake trees. I don't have
because
a fake
they're
tree.
firm and they're rigid. They're aluminum
the
or
middle
plastic.
branch on the top of a tree is
Why are you
usually
so
fake.
upset about this?
Because I have a new star and I'm worried I'm going to have the same problem. I brought a new star and I think
that's really horrible.
I'm
Where'd you get a new star?
I bought it online.
Oh, wow. That's great, Marjorie.
Yes, I did.
Wow,
okay,
very exciting.
Fulo, excuse me.
Fulo in Northbridge.
From Northbridge. Hi.
Hi. No way, that's...
Sulo.
I'm sorry.
I used to live...
I'm sorry.
Marjorie, we're almost neighbors. I lived in Mountain View, California for a number of years.
Oh, that's right near Palo Alto. Yeah, it's beautiful out there.
That's my first landscape. I learned landscaping there.
That's
we
great.
got a noble fir.
Wow.
What is that? What is a noble fir?
It grows in Northern California and Oregon at a certain elevation.
Yeah.
And after Christmas, I trimmed off every branch except for the very tippy top.
Yeah.
We kept it alive on our porch till Memorial Day.
Oh.
We came back for a visit to New England.
Yeah.
When we went back, the water was out and it dehydrated.
That's one of the saddest stories I've ever heard. Is that the end of the story, I hope?
Also,
Oh,
the
there's more.
noble fir
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
On Martha Stewart, she was visiting a tree guy.
Sure she was.
And he wanted to grow noble firs, but he said they only grow at certain elevations out in California and Oregon. But that was interesting.
Okay,
Lovely tree.
Okay, that's it. Okay, thank you, Sulo. That was an excellent story, I think, and it was nice that you and Marjorie were neighbors.
Here's a nice
or whatever you
texter
were.
who says
Sulo,
what
thanks.
I can do is I can stuff some of the tree branches into the star holder to help straighten them out.
You mean cut them off and stuff
Yeah.
them into whatever. Are you a faker, Edgar B. Herrick III? Are you a faker, real tree guy?
Real tree.
Yeah,
Real tree. It's got to be a real
Do you
tree.
have any tolerance? I don't mean to be unkind to the fake tree people here. You have any tolerance for people with fake trees? Tell the
Well,
truth.
no, here's the thing. I think if you're going to do a fake tree, you
Yeah.
got to lean into the fake, like the silvery
completely white kind of fake tree, I'm okay with that. When the fake tree looks like a real tree,
I love
that
this.
feels to me a little bit like where you wear a sport coat and pants, and the black is a little bit different between the pants. It's not really a suit.
Wow.
It's like, you know.
That is rather
so
deep,
that's kind of how I feel about it.
Because you're right, the fake trees do look like real trees now until you get really close to them, and then you're like, they were trying to
those are two different shades of black you're wearing.
Why didn't we say that?
Very shady individuals.
I agree.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
No offense to the
no offense to any people out there. Okay, what are you doing on the week in review deal here?
Well, if I look at what's in front of me here, I guess I'm getting drunk. I'm getting drunk on beer.
This beer
I didn't realize I was
is really, really good. Roundhead Brewing.
Very different. It's great.
It's great. What are you doing?
Well, we're going to talk about Mayor Michelle Wu this week announced that the free program for children in the city of Boston has expanded to all students. So we're going to rap about that a little bit in museums, for cultural institutions. We're going to talk about Spotify Wrapped, which dropped this week, a little bit of music stuff. And then I figured, Jim, we had other stuff planned, but we're probably just going to fire up your interview with Al Cooper. As we heard a highlight of earlier in your show. We're just going to listen to that in its
He is
full.
one, I don't know how he is now. He's still alive. I think he still lives in Somerville. One of the great rock musicians and founders of Blood. He's a genius. He's a tough nut to crack.
Now, really, speaking of music, stick with us for the show because you're going to hear, I don't know a lot of people have heard this week, but this week, an old recording from the 1890s was kind of discovered and released. It is believed to be the oldest country song ever put on tape back in the 1890s.
By a black guy.
By a black guy from New Orleans.
Wow. That is fabulous.
So if you haven't heard that yet, stick around for our show because we're going to play a cut from that.
We'll be sticking around.
So, yeah.
Okay,
Here's
thank
to you,
very
Edgar.
much,
Thank
Edgar.
you very much.
And thanks people that came down to the Boston Public Library. Keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast. You tune in on Monday for former Boston Globe editor and now head of the journalism program at BU. That would be Brian McGrory. Also the Reverends Irene Monroe and Emma G. Price III for All Revved Up. Our food policy man, Corby Cummer, and Harvard professor Khalil Gibran Mohammed. We want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, our engineer John the Claw Parker, our executive producer Jay Bologna, our BPL staff Maddie Geyer, Patrick Lally, Bill Francis, Juan Jose Cadena, our host at the Newsfeed Cafe and across the street at the Lenox Hotel. Thanks to them too.
Thomas Cromwell becomes King Henry VIII's chief minister and must deal with the power struggles of the Tudor court. Watch Wolf Hall Sunday night at 10 on GBH2.
I'm digital producer Alexi Cohan, and you and I are listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News with NPR. What matters to you?
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Coming up on The Culture Show, our favorite four-letter word here on The Culture Show, free, just got some love from the city of Boston. This week, Mayor Wu announced that the city is expanding its pilot program, giving Boston students free access to select arts and culture institutions. Starting in January, it'll be offered to all Boston students, with more free days and even more institutions participating. From there, famed writer Stephen King is sending his independent radio stations to the dead zone. After 41 years of operating them, he's giving Maine the silent treatment, citing sustained financial losses. And it's a renaissance in Paris. After going up in flames, Notre Dame Cathedral is set to reopen this Sunday after undergoing a 5-year restoration. We take on that and more on our Arts and Culture Week in Review.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. Lebanon has closed all of its land borders with Syria except for the main one that connects Beirut with the capital of Syria. NPR's Lauren Frere reports the decision to shut most of the border crossing came hours after Israel launched airstrikes into the region.
The Israeli military published black and white aerial video of buildings exploding on the Lebanon-Syria border. It says its fighter jets have been targeting supply routes Hezbollah uses to smuggle weapons from Iran across Syria and into Lebanon. Lebanon's state news agency says the country's northernmost border crossing with Syria was heavily damaged and the road to it severed. That's also the border crossing closest to where Syrian rebels have been seizing territory. For anyone fleeing that fighting, only one other border crossing to Lebanon remains open, closer to Damascus. Israeli airstrikes have continued here even after a ceasefire took effect last week. Israel says it's acting to enforce that truce, not break it. Lauren Frere, NPR News, Beirut.
The manhunt for the gunman who fatally shot the top executive of United Healthcare continues. CEO Brian Thompson was killed outside of a hotel in New York City on Wednesday. NPR's Maria Aspen reports many companies are rethinking their security in the wake of the shooting.
Police say that Brian Thompson was specifically targeted in a premeditated attack. Thompson ran the largest health insurance company in the United States, where anger and frustration with health insurers runs high. But a surveillance video shows that he was alone, without any security, when the alleged gunman shot him several times from behind. Now many big companies are rethinking their security procedures. Corporate security experts say their phones have been ringing nonstop this week. Philip Klein runs a security firm in Texas.
Our clients are calling us like crazy. We're getting new clients calling us like crazy.
Meanwhile, several healthcare companies have removed photos and information about their executives from their websites. Maria Aspen, NPR News, New York.
President-elect Donald Trump has announced a White House artificial intelligence.
September of 2022 and December of 2023, these suspects processed withdrawals without authorization at branches in Somerville, Dorchester, and in Milton. Prosecutors say investigators at the bank uncovered the alleged scheme and notified authorities. 2 of the 3 suspects were arraigned in Middlesex Superior Court yesterday. The 3rd suspect is due in court next week. 31 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's best interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. This is NPR.
Support for GBH comes from you and M. Steinert & Sons. Their holiday event is happening now through December 31st, featuring Steinway & Sons' Spirio Piano that recreates performances by Lang Lang, Horowitz, and more. msteinert.com. And the Museum of Science, where their Fun for All Ages seasonal exhibit is now open. All aboard Trains at Science Park features more trains, activities, and magic. More at mos.org.
Welcome to the Culture Show. I'm co-host Edgar B. Herwick III. Jared Bowen is out today. I'm joined by co-host James Bennett II and Culture Show contributor Lisa Simmons. She's the artistic and executive director of the Roxbury International Film Fest and program manager at Mass Cultural Council. It's time for our Arts and Culture Week in Review. Here's what it sounded like.
So today I'm excited to announce that our BPS Sundays pilot is now Boston Family Days.
This means all Boston students can take advantage of free access at many of the city's cultural institutions.
Squabble up. Hold the presses. Kendrick just announced that in 2025, he's going on tour with his label mate, R&B queen SZA, for the Grand National Tour.
After more than 40 years, 3 Bangor area radio stations owned by Stephen King are signing off at the end of this year.
The oldest country recording ever was just discovered in New Orleans, sung by an African American named Louis Vasnier.
Spotify Wrapped dropped today.
Hello, it's Sabrina. And if you got this message, that means I am one of your top most listened to.
Came this week, and here is what Michelle Wu had to say on the Culture Show on Wednesday.
Whether it is youth football teams that rented some vans and piled in to go visit the museum, or classes that arranged an entire class play date on the weekend because no one had to worry about cost, this has been transformational in many, many different ways, and we're thrilled to be able to expand it.
So the upshot of this expansion is that the pilot program was for public school students. Right. Now it is all school-age students here in the city of Boston. And also they've added 3 more institutions to the list. So in addition to what was already there, which was the Children's Museum, the Franklin Park Zoo, ICA, MFA, Museum of Science and Aquarium, we also now have the JFK Presidential Library and Museum, the Museum of African American History, and the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. What's your take, Lisa?
This is awesome.
I mean, really. I mean, it's transformative. We all know that arts and culture saves lives. That especially in young folks, that giving them the opportunity to be in these institutions and bringing their family members. I mean, I know the pilot was, a pilot is a pilot, and I know there was criticism about just having a BPS students, but you have to start somewhere, and I'm so glad that it has expanded to all students in the city of Boston, and they can take 2 guests. And I just think, when you have access to places like the MFA and the Isabella Stewart and the Museum of Science, the costs are oftentimes prohibitive. And this just gives you the incredible opportunity to go there with your families. I think it's 2 Sundays a month.
It's the first 2 Sundays of every month.
Yep, first 2 Sundays of every month. And they saw an amazing number of growth over the course of the first pilot. So I can only imagine what this is going to be.
Kids these days.
Tell us about the kids these days.
About kids these days, man. We talk sometimes about how the mall is dead. That's not a third space that is in use by, let's say, maybe the under 21, under 18 crowd. And so when I think about the focus on school-age students, K through 12, to be able to just kind of waltz into the museum, not only kind of consume and drink in whatever kind of culture can be found, on the walls or on the floors. I can't help but think about this as a rechristening of the museum as a third space, kind of free from the, I don't know, not to sound too bleak, but like the capitalist kind of demands of spending your free Sunday at the mall. And so that's how I am thinking about the idea of a museum open access to kids.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that is a great way to think about that, because it is another space for them. It is a way for kids even to go together, not necessarily with their parents, but they can go and experience these spaces and these places on their own with their friends.
What do we think about, I think about, I'm going to make maybe a strange comparison here, but I think about the fact that, we will often maybe go to a CVS pharmacy right now to get certain things done that 15 years ago we would have gone to the doctor's office for, right?
Yes.
So one of the things we know has been happening across the board, across the country, is that arts education in schools, in public schools, and schools in general, is sort of draining out of the classroom. And if you can have a program in a city like this where we have these cultural institutions, and you can make the access there for all of these students, do we see this as like sort of a supplemental place where education in something like the arts can be happening? I know a lot of these institutions have educational programs as part of them, and they're educational in certain form and fashion just by their very nature.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The thing, I see where you're coming from, but for me there's a small difference, though, in that education, at least right now, it's compulsory. And if you're going to think about these museums and these cultural spaces filling that arts educational void, remember, it's only around on a Sunday. And so when you were explaining that, my first thought was like, what if you just outsource the field trip, let's say
during
to
the day.
ICA or something. But then it's like, that can only happen on one of the 2 days of the week where that education is not compulsory. Your question should be, should we be expanding at least 2 weeks out of every month the school week to be 6 days instead of 5?
Ooh.
Or make access on a Tuesday or a Wednesday once in a while.
That is probably easier to do.
Or you make the access after school, so you're going from school to there. But I mean, anyway, I think this is amazing. We already know what this has done in D.C., having a museums be free. So maybe this is another pilot that we're just going to grow to a Tuesday or a Thursday afternoon where kids can come in.
All right, so speaking of access, one thing that is getting increasingly difficult to access are tickets to big concert events.
This is true.
So Kendrick Lamar and SZA are going on tour. April to June of next year. By the way, locally here will be May 12th at Foxborough. That's our local version. Yeah. Tickets went on sale this week and
this morning, in fact.
This morning to the general public. Yep. But they went on sale for pre-sale a couple of days prior. James, you had noted that there is something a little unusual about this pre-sale this time and what Kendrick Lamar, it appears, is trying to do.
Yeah, so I thought what caught my eye, man, is that Kendrick and his touring team, along with SZA, who's also joining as an artist, they partnered for this pre-sale with Cash App. A lot of times you'll get the Amex pre-sale.
Right, always.
You'll get the City.
Citizens or something like that.
Yep.
pre-sale. But this tells me that Kendrick is like aiming for a very specific demographic to fill up these arenas for this tour.
And what is that demographic in your estimation?
Like black people,
or younger, or the younger audience who are very tech savvy and can use something like a Cash App too.
Yeah. Well, sorry, go ahead.
I think it just democratizes it in a way. I think Cash App is. I mean, I have Cash App, and I have Cash App because my younger cousin couldn't get Venmo or whatever, right? And so now he has the opportunity to get money in, to use his Cash App to buy things.
But what's interesting to me, though, is that unlike Venmo and PayPal, Cash App as a P2P, transactional service, it has wormed its way somehow, remarkably, at least to me, into hip-hop culture.
Yes.
There's that stereotype and joke that I might often spout out that, like, black people use Cash App and white people use Venmo, right? That's obviously not true across the board. But it is true, according to Pew Research, that 59% of active Cash App users are black and 37% are, as they say, Hispanic American, with even a smaller percentage of white and Asian Americans. So as far as democratizing it goes and having kind of like that digital footprint to sign in for the pre-sale, true. But then it's like he could have easily done a partnership with Venmo or, with PayPal. And so it's interesting.
But you just said that who's the demographic for Venmo and PayPal.
Exactly.
So you're right. So it's absolutely there. But the other thing about Cash App too is that they're walking away with more money in their pocket, right? So this Kendrick and this is a great way to sort of like move past those ticket fees and the exorbitant prices that they take from them as performers.
However, I mean, you go on social media today and look at some of the stuff that's out there around people trying to get tickets to this event, to this concert series today, and you see a lot of the same old stuff right now, right? The prices are crazy. The dynamic pricing thing, which is clearly like a huge issue for a lot of people and not working. There are people who are tweeting that they sort of log in and there's a $100 ticket and they watch it go from 100 to 200 to 500 right in front of their eyes.
Well, right, and it's the same issue that you're going to have. I don't know how you solve that somebody else can buy up all these tickets and then resell them, right? So right. But I mean, I think the whole issue for me here is access, right? That the Cash App offers certain opportunities for people who are sort of like what they call is unbanked, right?
Yeah.
And being able to have this financial opportunity.
I mean, it's hard to get I'm assuming, but it's like, an Amex Platinum. It's much harder to get one of those and to go sign in to
And it's, you look at it from Cash App's perspective and it's probably a boon for them because it's putting them in front of a whole bunch of people that maybe they weren't before. So
in a word of hope, I did check Instagram and a friend of mine was able to get tickets to the Grand National Tour and paid, I think, $87. So it's working.
It is possible. It's possible. All right. Well, we're going to step away just for a moment. You are listening to our Arts and Culture Week in Review live from the GBH studio at the Boston Public Library. Coming up, more music, including Stephen King, King of Independent Radio, going silent. That is next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Part of the GBH News Equity and Justice Unit.
I feel that we have to do work to create trust with communities.
Community producer Magdiela Mata.
There's already been people that I've spoken to that are like, people only cover us when there's something bad. And so I'm trying to really focus and center the joy for people to feel that their community is represented in totality and not just this one negative angle.
Elevating issues of equity and justice. GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you and the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Narwhal, Revealing an Arctic Legend. This family-friendly show explores these legendary whales through art and science, now on view. You can learn more at pem.org/narwhal. And The Lyric Stage, presenting Noises Off. This side-splitting comedy is a perfect holiday outing complete with shenanigans, slamming doors, and sardines. November 15th through December 22nd at Lyric Stage Boston. Tickets at lyricstage.com.
It's been almost 30 years since actors Ralph Fiennes and Juliette Binoche shared the screen. Their new film, The Return, based on the Odyssey, is all about reunion.
When this project brought us together, I think we both recognized that it felt inevitable.
A joy. I'm Elsa Chang. An epic poem and an epic reunion hit the big screen on All Things Considered from NPR News.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Welcome back to The Culture Show. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III, live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library. I am joined by co-host James Bennett II and Culture Show contributor Lisa Simmons. If you are just tuning in, it is our Arts and Culture Week in Review. We are going over the latest headlines, which includes writer Stephen King killing off his main radio stations. So the backstory here is Stephen King owns 3 independent radio stations in Bangor, Maine, where he looms large as a figure. He bought his first station back in 1983, eventually added 2 more, and they're just independent rock music radio stations. It turns out that he is basically doing an audit of his financial situation, and these radio stations, maybe not surprisingly, have operated at a loss for many, many, many years, and he's been covering that loss because he's Stephen King and he can. But I guess right now it's no longer making financial sense for him, so he has announced that coming January 1st, the stations are going dark.
Yeah, I wonder, you said it's not making financial sense to kind of maintain those stations. He's getting those financial, accounts in order. But, one of the reports that we read about this, his words also were getting his affairs in general in order, which is sad to think about. But, he himself has said that, while he feels fine and perfectly healthy, he feels his own age catching up to him. And so this almost feels like a rather, merciful, coup de grace or something. Because let's say, when Stephen King departs this plane, who else could, out of pocket, maintain 3 independent stations out of just, sheer love of the game, which he has for radio and rock.
And music,
And, with this kind of largesse. And so it is an interesting, very, shrewd move to kind of kill your darling.
I know. I mean, it is sad. I mean, I think that there's a lot of people who work at these radio stations. I think that's, it sort of was a sudden thing. It wasn't like 3 years from now we're going to close down these radio stations. So I think that's sad. But I also think that we have to understand the climate for local radio, right? For local radio stations. And it's
She says on a local radio
I say on a local, but this is mighty. We're fine. But I mean, you're thinking about iHeartRadio. I mean, it's just the same thing at these conglomerates coming in.
They own 870 stations in 151 markets, right?
Yes. So I understand him putting his affairs in order. He is 77. He's thinking about what his next move is going to be. What is he going to? What it really is his legacy? He's already created his legacy there in Bangor, Maine. So, but it is unfortunate because it is those local radio stations that play things that bring people on. They were talking about advertising events that are going on in the community. All of that is gone. So who fills that space?
I mean, this is such a hard thing. Obviously, I'm talking on the radio. I have a love for radio, right? And you are always sad to see this kind of thing going away, especially the community aspect of it. But, I find myself going back and forth in my head about whether radio is still serving the audiences in the same way. I mean, the internet, for all of its trouble, is also an amazing tool. And in terms of people's access to information, including local information, I don't know. Is it a 1-for-1, or are we losing something by it not happening on radio?
Well, I think that people listen to different things in different spaces. I think that for having, there's the podcast and there's the younger generation that's, on Spotify or listening to and getting their news from social media and from streamers, right? But there still is a place for local radio. You know what I mean? There's still generations that are very much attached to that. So I feel like there could be a balance. There could be a way that you sort of collaborate and incorporate streaming into your local radio station, or some ways that you can keep that.
And dare I say, as the carless wonder from New York, I would imagine a car is one of those places. And, another thing that I was reading about the shutdown of these stations, right? is in certain parts of this country, where car culture is a thing.
Right.
You want those options on the radio, or that is a long, silent, boring ride. And what does local radio do? It gives you character and flavor, right, of where you are.
Right.
I think it was Tesla that got some heat, at least from me personally, because in a lot of electric cars, they opt out of having an AM tuner on the radio.
Yes. Yep.
And I think the FCC was like, you need to have access to these radio stations in your vehicles for just like the public good and safety, I suppose.
Where are you going to get your alert?
Yeah.
Where would you have gotten your tsunami alert? From
on your
California,
cell phone, right? I mean, probably on your
all right,
cell phone.
All right,
you can't check your phone while driving. That's bad.
Yes,
that's true. No, that is
right.
true. All right, now, so we could look at radio as maybe something that is for older people, but we want to get real old now. We're going to talk about real old music. This week emerging an incredible story here. So this is what is now kind of being dubbed the single oldest known recording of country music. So I'm going to start us off here and play a little bit of this so we can hear. So, but you gotta, this is old. This is from the 1890s.
133 years.
This was on a wax cylinder initially. So you got to listen pretty carefully, but this is a performance of a song called Thompson's Old Gray Mule. And the singer is Louis Vasnier, a black artist from New Orleans. It's a little hard to decipher, but listen carefully and you'll hear a little here. That is awesome.
It's awesome.
That is awesome.
You know, that reminds me of the cartoons.
Yeah.
Way back, the older cartoons, because you heard that like scratchy kind of like in the whole.
Yeah.
It's remarkable to also just kind of hear how some, phrases, the vocabulary of the music kind of stays remarkably consistent, even through all of the noise, as it were, still getting some of those boom, boom, boom. Like we still, it's so familiar. So even though you can't really decipher with your ears as best you can, you still know where the music is going because our brains have already picked it up from now. That's nuts. But it's funny that we're saying that this is country music, right? Because this is what, 1913, Edgar?
This is 1890s.
1890s. So, wow, I really missed the mark on that.
And generally speaking, we're talking, depending on who you talk to, a lot of people kind of put the beginnings, the sort of official beginnings of country music, not until really the 1920s, where it really kind of emerges in certain ways of looking at it as a distinct genre. That's when the Carter family sort of begins. That's where, but Jimmy Rogers is in the 1920s, right? These kind of formative artists.
But I like how they talk about what really is country music. Country music was created. It was a concept to sell records, right?
Yeah.
Because it was the same time that like race records were coming out. There's huge segregation between black audiences and white audiences. So I feel like we're constantly having this conversation about country music, especially when we're in the middle of the Beyonce issue, right? And about whether or not her album is actually country. So, I don't know. I mean, they labeled it this. They labeled it as the oldest country song in the country. I think maybe it's the melody. Maybe it's the way that the way it's coming across is that you give it that. It's about an old mule in the country. I don't know. I mean,
it's also a song that that in subsequent recordings becomes kind of formative in the beginnings of country music as well. So it's also, I think, the particular song.
It's the vibe that we as listeners and it's the vibe that labels themselves have created. So I'm really glad that you kind of brought that up, because let's say that this did get recorded in the 1920s. It wouldn't have been a country song. It wouldn't have been a country western song. It would have been a race record on Black Swan Records.
Right.
Shout out Black Swan. And so it's a very interesting full circle moment that now it's been unearthed. It's like, oh, it's country, and it couldn't even have the designation back when it was recorded.
Well, it's and the other thing here is, obviously, American music, full stop, is it's a never-ending spectrum, and we sort of pick these moments in the spectrum and say, like, this is a dividing line between X genre and Y genre, but they're all wrapped up in each other. The blues is a part of country, and the blues is a part of jazz, and the blues is a part of rock and roll. I mean, in some ways,
it's all part of the Black experience, right? Which is the American experience.
Exactly, and in some ways, could have only happened in America in those times. Like that is, that is reflective of the American experiment in that era, right? Yeah. Under the conditions that we were under.
Absolutely. I do have to say that one of my favorite parts of this story was, it says the highlight of the song has to be the chorus, where Vancier delivers a comic snorting and recreation of a donkey delivering ehaws. I love that.
I mean, that's great.
Yeah, because he's singing the whole thing.
He's not even singing
you got to have the onomatopoeia. Got to have it.
And I will say just quickly too, I just remember this in the first what you would call jazz recording, which come on,
right?
By the Dixieland original jazz band. I forgot the name of the song, but they do the mimicking, of the animals with their instruments, and that's an all-white band, that's having that first kind of jazz moment, and so it is also kind of cool to hear a human voice, a black voice, kind of doing this thing that was so novelty in I think 1919,
right? Yeah.
When that recording came out from the Dixieland. So, yeah.
Also, for me, a shout out just in this story to the collectors of the world. I mean,
that's right.
The fact that there's a guy out there who has custom built his own equipment so he can play these old wax cylinders, and he just goes to estate sales and wherever he can, and he buys them up. And in this case, he paid $100 for an unmarked box of wax cylinders, and eventually got his way to going through them.
And let's call them out, Archiphone Records.
And then, that's separate. And then also Archiphone Records, shout out to them, because they partner with people like him and try to find. They release these older recordings that are uncovered and still being uncovered today. So shout out to them too for trying to do that.
His name is John Levine, and they also found Charles Asbury, who was the first black performer for them as well. So on a banjo recording. So that's pretty amazing. So go to garage sales. I think that's
there you go. Up. Did you listen to this song a lot this year, Lisa?
Yeah. How could you not?
Did you listen to this song a lot this year?
I did. I listened to it at least 7 times, I would say.
That is, of course, Sabrina Carpenter's smash hit Espresso, which was the single most streamed song on Spotify globally in 2024. And we know that because this week, the ever popular, the always anticipated Spotify Wrapped has dropped.
I was cracking up earlier because you just kept hammering in the American musical experience, all the genres are wrapped up together. And I was like,
oh, very
don't
clever.
Throw away that segue. Every year this comes out, and every year I'm confronted with the task of do I have an actual take about Spotify Wrapped? And I think I finally do after however many years they've been doing it.
I think 10. I think it's close to 10 years.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's peak millennial participation. It's just nipping at the heels, on Wrapped morning. Tell me that my music taste is unique and special in its own way, and I want to see, confetti and share it with my friends that this is me and you're not like me, but I listen to music just like you. And I did my part and participate. It's not a competition, but it is treated as such.
But maybe it shows that we are all the same.
I mean, we all listen to Espresso.
So top artists, I mean, there's not really any big surprises here,
now.
right? When we kind of look at the sort of broad top 10 artists in the U.S., Taylor Swift, Drake, Zach Bryan, Morgan Wallen, Kanye West. Top 10 songs, Espresso, Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar, a bar song by Shabuzi, some Post Malone. I mean, not huge surprises here, but also a fair amount of pushback, I feel like, this year from individual users in a way that I have not recalled in the past, about being a little bit disappointed in the way Spotify, for free, wrapped up all of your data and gave it to you.
Yeah, I feel the pushback. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I feel the pushback, though, is coming from this place of I can't believe I listened to that much or that little. Or I thought my top would be this, and maybe there is some, AI practice at work. But also, it's like, but if you did listen to it, you know, you might as well own it.
Right, exactly. You can't be embarrassed by it. It's who you are and what you listen to. It's sort of like when you have, you know, when your iPhone tells you, oh, here's what's happened over the last year, and these are your stories, and this is, you know, it's sort of like wrapping all that up, right, and telling those stories.
So, but the AI component here does ramp up a little bit this year, right? So, including one of the features in this year's Wrapped is that you can click on and listen to a bespoke podcast that is telling you basically the same thing that your screen shows you. So when you open up your Wrapped, it kind of gives you your data, whatever. But you can tap on and play this couple minute long podcast, quote unquote, where it walks you through your year in listening to the music. But that is completely AI generated, including the two voices who are doing the podcast just for you. What do we make of this?
I skipped it. I had no interest.
Isn't everything? But wait, isn't everything AI generated?
Yeah.
I mean,
to a certain extent.
Yeah. I mean,
it's telling you what you already kind of know.
Yeah.
Right? You know, I think the quirkiest thing about Spotify's AI models are when they kind of invent these genres, like, you know, microdose sunshine hip hop.
Well, that was the big thing this year as well. There's a bunch of this, right? It's just like word salad.
I got like urban, you know, bougie hip hop escapism, and I was like, I guess that does describe.
Yeah,
me
this fall apparently I was very interested
curator.
in film noir, slow dance jazz. That was my fall.
I have another fall with Wrapped.
Go ahead.
As we're talking about this, I just thought of. There's no album roundup. And what I mean by that is when I looked at my Wrapped this year, I saw the songs I listened to the most, and I did have that kind of moment of like, oh no, is that really what I listened to the most? And it's true, I did, but those songs weren't necessarily from what I were considering my favorite and the best albums of the year, and there's no metric for that.
But why? But shouldn't they have been in your Wrapped?
Because I tend to listen to music beginning to end on an album.
Okay.
I don't like shuffling. I mean, I do appreciate a well-curated playlist, and it's, you know, a fun little hobby. But there is no way to put a stamp on, I really appreciated this singular body of work from an artist or a label, and then have that presented to you. And then we have programs, you know, like the Culture Show where we talk about it, then I have to shuffle back through everything that I saved, look at all of my old notes from like back in January, about like, oh yeah, I really did like that on a Juju album from back in like January 7th.
Do we generally feel like we want this data? You know what I mean? Like, I sometimes have these moments where I feel like we are so awash in data.
I think it's conversation starters. I really do. I think it's like, you know, go to a party, what's your Wrapped, you know, like, let's talk about that. Oh, that's really cool, so that's mine. I mean, you might not want it, but it serves a purpose.
Yeah. Do either of you have a favorite artist from this year that's, you know, Spotify or just your inner self told you that you liked more than everyone else?
I mean, I would say Lalom, Lalom, I saw them this summer, and it was a great show. They don't have a ton of stuff out there, but what they have is quite great. So that's been top. But my Spotify Wrapped is the same every single year, which is the Beatles is who I listen to the most every single year, and then a whole bunch of old jazz because I use it. I use my Spotify as a playlist for teaching swing dance classes. So, you know,
so that's going to throw it off.
Mine is pretty much the same every time. How about you? Did you have a favorite this year?
For me, I mean, I'm just a classicist. My favorite band or group is Earth, Wind & Fire. So when I listen to stuff, I think it comes up as like a vibe curator, or, you know, you bring the party to the vintage sophistication to the party. I mean, that's what I like. It's sort of like yacht rock.
Yacht Rock's having yet another moment. Yet another moment for Yacht Rock.
You got to see the documentary.
We got to get out of here. We're going to take a break for a second. Coming up, we've got Follow-Up Friday and more. We're going to bring you up to speed on some of the shows that we've been tracking on the Culture Show, including a strange twist to the treasure hunt that we were all so excited about a few weeks ago. That is coming up next on the Culture Show. Stay with us.
Spoopy.
Everyday people.
Matt knows that I'm afraid of sea creatures, so his gift to me would be scuba lessons.
Personal stories.
So we jump overboard and we begin our descent. Right away, I'm just in a panic, but Matt puts his hand on my shoulder and he lets me know that there's no rush. And sea turtles just drift by this colorful coral, and it's glorious.
Stories from the Stage, Sunday night at 7 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Mass General Brigham Health Plan with Medicare Advantage plans featuring a new flexible benefits card to cover fitness and weight loss programs, healthcare transportation, and over-the-counter healthcare needs. mgbadvantage.org. And Revels. Audiences of all ages can experience the Celtic and Cabo Verdean celebration of the solstice at the 54th Midwinter Revels, December 13th through 28th at Sanders Theater, Harvard University. Tickets at revels.org.
Stand-up comedy may have started in the U.S., but the world has always been watching.
They turned on the TV, and there was comedy on TV, and I started laughing. And I just thought to myself, I want to be able to do that.
That's a comic from Zimbabwe, and now he has Americans in stitches. That story in the day's global news, next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Welcome back to The Culture Show. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III, live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library. I am joined by co-host James Bennett II and Culture Show contributor Lisa Simmons. She's the artistic and executive director of the Roxbury International Film Festival and program manager at Mass Cultural Council. If you are just tuning in, we are going over the latest headlines for our Arts and Culture Week in Review, which includes Notre Dame Cathedral reopening after a devastating fire in 2019. It underwent major restoration, major reconstruction, and this weekend finally opens back up to the public. All told, something like $700 million worth of work done by, dozens and dozens, thousands really, of dedicated artisans. Among the things they had to do to get this thing back in order was fell an 80-foot oak tree so that they had a piece of wood big enough that they needed. They cleaned 8,000 organ pipes. They refurbished 1,500 solid oak pews and 1,000 other things. And it's ready to go. The people of France will be welcomed in once again.
And everybody.
The people of the world.
I hate to be a downer. I really hate to be a downer.
Okay.
But talking about Notre Dame after the fire in April 2019, at least for me, has always been like trying to, square a circle, or whatever the expression is.
In what way?
Well, before the fire, if you remember, March 2019 was when Eastern Africa and Madagascar got hammered by cyclone or typhoon, Idai. And a lot of conversation that was happening was, the fire happens at the cathedral, which is obviously, devastating. But there is kind of that big question. We're on the news and on shows and in conversation. We're talking about the loss, of a constructed thing more than the loss of life or old property. However, while I was reading about this restoration, I was able to square the circle in a way because, like you were just saying, all of the effort, all of the material, all of the resources, all of the labor that went into reconstructing does remind you that this is almost akin, I think, to what it would be like if the Colossus of Rhodes had fallen and there was some kind of technology to kind of rebuild it. A lot of these things are lost to earthquakes and fires and other disasters. And so, we are, I feel, extremely lucky at least to be able to even see pictures of it, if not able to even get there ourselves. And so that's kind of been that, somewhat emotional or brain-scratchy journey for me, just to have this newfound appreciation, for the Cathedral of Notre Dame.
Well, I'm glad that you have that newfound appreciation.
Thank you.
But I do think that I understand that, right? Because there are all of these things that are devastated by all sorts of things, and war is one of those, right? So there's a loss of so much when something like this happens, and I feel like the world needs this right now, this sort of restoration, this sort of coming together of a rebuilding of something that is so iconic and so important. But I mean, I understand what you're talking about. But I think you're right. I mean, there were so many people that were involved in this. There were so many people that were supportive of this. There were countries that just came, to the aid of France to help rebuild it. I do want to make a point, though, about when you say about the felling of the oak trees, which I thought was really interesting. And it said 42,327 people signed a petition against the felling of ancient oaks to rebuild the cathedral's roof, because they declared that the mass felling would equate to ecocide. And they said, well, they were being scheduled to be cut down anyway. So there are those two sides to the coin, right? There's the rebuilding of it and that people really wanted that to happen. But then there's also like, well, wait a second, you cut down this 237-year-old oak to rebuild the spire. But I think in the end, it's going to be something that they say is going to bring in millions and millions of more people to that space and to participate in what Notre Dame has to offer.
Have you been there? Have you two been to?
I was just there last year, actually.
Notre Dame?
I have been to Paris, and I was the most I do like Paris, but I did no touristy thing. I didn't see the Eiffel Tower. I didn't see Notre Dame. I didn't go inside of the Louvre, and so
Did you have coffee?
I had a a lot of coffee.
Okay, good.
Like a ton. Yeah.
Well, if walls could talk, as they say, or can they? The Tower of London. So apparently here in the Tower of London, right, there's long been known that people have scratched things into the walls when they have been prisoners there, going back to the 16th century. However, modern technology has now allowed us to decipher way more than we ever thought was on these walls, and we've learned a lot this week about some of the stuff that was scratched into the walls of the Tower of London by prisoners. What do we think about this?
It's pretty sad. Because they're all
prisoners.
They're all prisoners, and the Tower of London was known not to be a resort.
Right.
It was not cush. So even looking at images of the graffiti, I'm just kind of like, oh my god,
I know.
It's a bone-chilling thing to see. But it's really cool that that can be deciphered now.
And it's not like hieroglyphics on a cave, where people are telling stories of their life in the whatever. It was it was sort of horrific.
It's like, oh, my number's up. This is crazy. Here's a Bible verse for you.
So I think one of the big revelations is that they had sort of known probably that there were women prisoners in this spot, and they said it's not full sentences that they were able to decipher, but words here and there, and they found the word husband. So this is kind of the first evidence, for sure, hard evidence, that there was a female prisoner there in the Tower of London.
I think that's amazing. I mean, I think in going back to sort of like AI and technology and all of that, you would never have been able to find these if we didn't have this new technology that can, look at the walls in a way that they never could look at them before. So I think, it's really important that we have this history, that we're able to find this history. I think one of the interesting things about this story, though, too, is that it says that there are visitors that today are going into the Tower of London and scrolling their own graffiti or whatever with a pen or a pencil. So it's sort of like getting in the way of these hieroglyphics or these messages that were done by these prisoners.
Also, it's just humans love to write on walls. I mean, that's my takeaway. People love to write on walls, whether they're in a bathroom or a Tower of London or a cave, it doesn't matter.
I mean, a pen or a pencil is wild work. You got to commit to the bit and scratch something in. Put in the work. Lock in, my boy.
All right, it is Friday, and that can mean only one thing.
It's time for Follow-Up Friday.
Yes, it is Follow-Up Friday, bringing you updates on some of the stories we've been covering, which includes Project Skydrop, the hunt for buried treasure that ended with 2 people having to bury the hatchet. All right, real quick. This is a crazy story, but there was this treasure hunt which was put out there. There was a treasure which had money in it, including basically a code for a crypto thing to be able to collect your money. There was a guy who found the treasure, kind of amazing. Well done. Local meteorologist found the treasure. So, turns out though, somebody took an image of the thing, put it online in one of these chats. People had decoded the thing and were going to be able to get the money before this guy could get it. Okay? So, the game developers then decide, okay, we haven't put the money in the thing yet, so now we have a solve. We're going to give you another puzzle to solve.
Just him.
Just him. Well, they give
it to everyone.
They give it to everyone, but then they give him an advantage so that he can win the money a second time. He partners up with some guy and says, "Hey, can you help me find this?" Well, and the guy's like, "Yeah, sure." But then the guy that's helping him, it takes too long, too much of his time, and he says, "I think I should get some of the money when you actually find this."
Kind of. I mean,
Fine. It seems like he's maybe open to that.
Helping.
But eventually, the guy who helps him solves it, steals the money.
This is a movie.
It is a movie.
I was just about to ask if y'all wanted to go in and co-write a screenplay about this.
Yeah.
Let's get our own $100,000 out of it.
Steals the money. Then he sort of goes on to this forum and says, "Ask me any questions. Yes, maybe I stole the money, but here's why I think I should have it." He gets excoriated. And then eventually decides that I don't need the money, I'm going to return the money, and he gives it to the guy who originally wanted it in the first place.
I know. I mean, we did the story a couple of months ago when it first came out, right? And that he found it, and it was great, and it was exciting. And so he has no idea. He holds it up to show everybody. They take a picture, and that's not fair, really, right? Because he would have ended up getting the Bitcoin. So the other a part of this money was the Bitcoin, not just the gold statue, right? So, but yes, I know. This other guy, his family was getting threats.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not good.
A couple days ago, someone accidentally sent me $45 and then promptly was like, "Can I please have that back?" And I wish I had just responded, "My brother, this could have been so much worse. I just sent this story."
You could have lost 87,000 Bitcoin.
Did you give it back?
Yeah, I give it.
Yeah, good man. Okay, another thing that we talked about here on the show was Mattel's wicked mistake when it came to their Wicked dolls. They had some weeks ago released dolls. Mattel had put together these dolls for Wicked and accidentally put the wrong website on the packaging.
Oops.
Rather than send them to the Wicked website that it was supposed to send them to, it sent them to a pornographic website. Perhaps not surprisingly now, a South Carolina woman is filing a civil lawsuit against Mattel, seeking a recovery of damages because of her and her daughter's accidental exposure to a pornographic website. What do we make of this?
Totally valid.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean, how do you... I mean, it does happen. I mean, we've all been there. Like, not that, but I'm just saying, like,
we've all been there to this particular website.
No. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. But we've all sort of like, oh my gosh, can I retract that? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just put that out there to 45,000 people. Oh my gosh, I have to recall that. So, but I just want to know who the person was who's responsible for putting the Wicked movie.com instead of wicked.com.
Surely that person has been fired.
Surely. Maybe. I don't know. I'm on board. I think it's an incredibly hilarious thing to be sued for, but it does. I feel I'm not a lawyer. I do feel that this is like what you might call something like negligence.
Yes.
However,
yes,
I believe someone pointed this out when we first did this. Aren't there things to bypass once you got to the site?
Yes. I know you have to be saying I'm 18. You have, but
right.
still,
you do. But still,
the imagery is still coming up.
It's not as bad as it could have been, but still, this is obviously a version of negligence, and they probably should be held accountable for it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, another story that we talked about, I think just last week, this banana. This banana, which was taped to a wall and is this great work of art, sold for an astonishing $6.2 million at auction. And the Chinese crypto entrepreneur Justin Sun, who bought it, he said he was going to eat the banana this week. He did eat the banana at a press conference. This guy is also wrapped up apparently now in some kind of Security and Exchange Commission investigation.
Shocking.
He's invested millions of dollars in a cryptocurrency that Donald Trump is in favor of. This is crazy. What's happening?
Well, first of all, you called it a great work of art.
Well, a work of art. Let's say an expensive work of art.
Very expensive. $6.2 million for a banana. But what I think is really interesting about this story is that the banana was 25 cents.
Yes.
And then he said to the cart, the guy who was selling the bananas, I'm going to buy 100,000 bananas from you, thinking, oh my God, that's great. But the reality is he doesn't own the cart.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
He's just a $12 an hour worker for the cart.
$12 an hour worker for the cart.
These financiers were so preoccupied with whether or not they could. They didn't stop to think if they should. The point of that banana was to stay on the wall.
With the duct tape.
And it's just a testament to extreme wealth, it makes you act crazy. I don't know what else to say. It's kind of up there with, let's say, Martin Shkreli, buying that Wu-Tang album as a bit. This art is supposed to exist, for that. So cool for purchasing the bananas, but shame on you for doing that.
Oh, we got you there, Lisa. That means it is time for our lightning round and the headlines that caught our eye this week. James, what do you got?
15 minutes of fame have become 5 months of fame for Haley Welch, a.k.a. Hawk Tuah Girl, because early yesterday morning, she released a very highly anticipated meme coin. I don't know what I think it's just called Hawk Coin or something. The problem, though, is that she's now implicated in this crypto pump and dump scam. Basically, the coin was released at a market cap of around $500 million yesterday morning. And then, mere hours later, the value had plummeted by 95%. So people are either angry because, is this a malicious thing that she did to, grab more money? Or was it something that was just incredibly stupid? There was at least one viral tweet that began, "I love Hawk Tuah Girl, but I lost my entire life savings." So let's keep an eye on that story.
Wow.
Crypto's getting real wild. Crypto's going to be the gift that keeps on giving for the
taking
in a headlines way. Yeah, taking. Lisa, what caught your eye?
What caught my eye is you can actually smell incense, rainy meadows, and musty cloth in these pre-Raphaelite paintings. So there is a gallery, and this is done before. This actually has been done before in the Netherlands in 2021, where they are infusing smells of paintings that were created sort of as these, paintings against Raphael, right? Against Raphael. So they were really about pastures and about, places that, that were beautiful and bucolic. So now they want you to be able to smell that. They want you to be able to smell the
smell the paintings.
Smell what's in
the
painting.
subjects
smell
of the painting,
which is not necessarily a good thing.
Is it scratch and smell or just regular smell?
You put your foot and it blows the smell of the meadow or of the disgusting streets or whatever. So, but apparently this is a thing. They feel like, people are audio, people are visual, maybe people are olfactory, and so this is something that they're really thinking is a really good thing. And they actually did this in the Netherlands in 2021, and this whole thing called Scent in Color. So yeah. So that's go find your smelly painting.
Very quick. Mine is, it is Word of the Year time, which I love. Oxford's Word of the Year was released this week, and it was brain rot. And the fun little fact about brain rot is the Oxford English Dictionary credits the first use in the English language of this term to Henry David Thoreau in his work, Walden. So brain rot's been with us for a while. And that is it for this edition of The Culture Show. Culture Show host James Bennett II reports on all things arts and culture for GBH. You can keep up with his work at gbhnews.org. Lisa Simmons, artistic and executive director of the Roxbury International Film Festival and program manager at Mass Cultural Council. Tune in on Monday for Broadway star Christine Ebersol. Thanks to BPL technical and logistics crew, Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, Sandra Lopez-Burke, Juan Jose Cadeno, Chris Hanks, Pat Lally, Olivia Corshio. Also thanks to City Table, Lennox Hotel, and the Newsfeed Cafe, and the team here at The Culture Show. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Have a great weekend.
Where is Mary? Where is she? Where is she? She's just about to close up the library.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Spend your afternoon with us.
Your favorite composers, including Brahms, Beethoven, Mozart, Haydn, and there's some great performers on this as well. Joshua Bell, Elliot Fisk, Stephen Huff, Don Upshaw, and more. You can't find this CD set anywhere else. It's custom made for our WCRB folks, and it's only here today through the membership drive. Sign up as a sustaining member at $5 a month or give $60 all at once if that's more your style, and ask for musical heritage treasures. That's at classical.org or calling 888-995-9272.
Wanted to send a couple of thanks, folks supporting WCRB today on this $5 Friday. Hello and thank you to Jennifer up in Nashua, New Hampshire. So much appreciate your support today. Nancy in Beverly making a contribution and leaving a message for us saying that Beverly's been listening for as long as WCRB has been around. Well, Nancy, thank you so much for your ongoing support, both as a listener and with your contributions. We're hoping you will do what Nancy and Jennifer up in Nashua, New Hampshire have done. Show your support for all the reasons you come to WCRB. That should be your reason for giving in whatever amount works for you. Again, you can go online securely with your support at classical.org or by calling us at 888-995-9272.
It's a great time to become a new monthly